San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And a happy Wednesday to everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hopefully you guys recovered from St. Patrick's Day yesterday. This is like the this is the last day to get work in before all productivity goes down. I mean, you got this week with St. Patrick's Day and the NCAA tournament, and of course my birthday. I don't know why you go to work this week. This would be the week you take off. I have friends that will always take PTO for the Thursday and Friday of the NCAA tournament. In fact, one of my buddies is actually doing a bachelor party. He's going to a bachelor party that's going to be today through Friday, to which one of my other friends, who's obviously, this is a different group for him, but he goes, who does a bachelor party in the middle of the week? And he's like, during March Madness? You kidding me? Those guys are going to have a good time. They're going to be hung over the entire weekend, though. You got a little bit of that madness last night. Had some great games last night in college basketball. You had the Howard UMBC game come down to the wire. I mean, Howard looked like they were going to just cruise to a victory, and UMBC made it close late. Just came up a little bit short. NC State and Texas was a hell of a game last night. I mean, we were talking about it off air before we started the show, and Texas with like 5 minutes to go was up double digits, and then Texas with about 2 minutes to go, just under 2 minutes to go, were up 9 points. And NC State started hitting some threes, man. They made that game tight. Made that game a lot tighter than it needed to be. I mean, there was a stretch there with under 3 minutes to go where Texas had a couple of fast break off of turnovers, led to some dunks where you got to hear Dickie V go, "He's the elevator man, baby." Haven't heard that in a long time. That was kind of cool. Although I don't necessarily know if I like the whole, maybe I did. I don't know. The game wasn't great until the final 5 minutes. The NC State Texas game. You got the Dickie V, Charles Barkley podcast during the game yesterday. They were having their own podcast about what's going on and all the problems of college basketball. And Brian Anderson, who does a great job calling basketball games, does a great job as a play-by-play guy. He is the TV voice, the TV broadcaster for the Milwaukee Brewers. You see him on TBS and everything like that. I mean, he was just sitting there kind of like, all right, and that's another 3-ball for NC State. Dickie V back on a broadcast. That was kind of cool. I like the nostalgia. He had to drop the elevator man in there at least one time on a high rise. A high rise is the elevator man, baby. It's great. That's what makes college basketball great. Now, they complained about NIL and all that other stuff, like on the side, as these guys were battling out. But that was a heck of a game. We got a little bit of a taste of what March Madness could potentially be in the first couple of rounds. 2 more games tonight. We'll talk about that later on. Today is the day we are going to fill out your bracket for you. We're going to help you. Later on in the show, we're going to go through it. We're going to tell you who are the good upset picks to make, who are the, where you got to go chalk, what region is probably the most difficult region. We'll get you the preview region by region later on in the show. We're looking forward to that. At 12:35 today, JR Blount is joining the show. It's his first media appearance since being announced as the USD men's basketball coach. We're going to talk to JR a little bit about Iowa State gearing up for the tournament, but it's going to be a lot of conversation today about why he took this job, why he thinks USD is the right spot for him, and why he thinks he could turn USD into a place that is known for college basketball and a place that is another entity here in town that's good in college basketball. There's going to be a lot of interesting conversations we're going to have with JR Blount. We're looking forward to meeting him for the first time at 12:35 today as he makes his media debut here in San Diego. Again, Iowa State's got to get ready for the NCAA tournament, so he's doing a couple of things at once, but he's taking the time to talk with us at 12:35. We are looking forward to that. Now, it's not just about college basketball. And where I want to start the show is the World Baseball Classic. And I thought last night's game was an okay game until like the final 2 innings. I mean, the bats were asleep for Team USA for the entire night. I mean, they were swinging like almost first pitch every single time. They were making the game go by quick. They weren't grinding out at bats. They looked like they were pressing hard. They finally got something together in the 8th inning with 2 outs when Bobby Witt Jr. worked a walk, and then Bryce Harper finally decided to show up to the WBC to tie the game on a 2-run homer. Then Team USA decides not to go with Mason Miller, and I think a lot of that had to do with the Padres, which is fine. I mean, as a Padres fan, I'd rather have Mason Miller fully healthy for the regular season. Don't need any extra innings, any extra stress innings. We've made it this far. Let's try to make it through without any Padre getting hurt, which I didn't think he was going to get hurt. But if the instructions were the only way that he's going to be able to pitch is in a save situation, then that's not a save situation last night in the 9th inning. But also, that being said, once they tied the game in the 8th, the top of the 9th would be the only time you could use Mason Miller because they were never going to have the lead anymore in a top half of the inning because they were the home team. Team USA was the home team. So that was the last option to use Mason Miller was right there. They decided not to. Who knows what the conversation was between the Padres and Team USA? I don't really care either way. But the thing with the World Baseball Classic is if the World Baseball Classic is going to become what baseball wants it to become and wants to grow the game, then Team USA has to decide that it actually matters. And I'm talking about the players. I'm talking about Team USA in general. I'm talking about, Mike DeRosa. I'm not, or Mark DeRosa. I'm not talking about like the organizations yet. And the organizations are in the right now to like limit certain innings and ramp up speed and all that stuff because of where it falls on the calendar. But if Major League Baseball and the entities to be want the WBC to become what they want it to become, Team USA's got to decide that it matters. Because right now, every other country treats this tournament like it's the pinnacle of sports. Every other country in this tournament treats it like the World Cup. The United States, they still kind of treat it like an exhibition with better uniforms. And that showed up again last night because while Team USA was trying to win a championship, Venezuela national baseball team was playing for something bigger. They beat Team USA 3-2 in the championship game. And yeah, you could break down the baseball part of it. We kind of talked about it. You could talk about missed opportunities. You could talk about getting shut down offensively. You could talk about Eugenio Suarez delivering the go-ahead double in the 9th. But if you watch the game, you saw something deeper. You saw a difference in emotion. You saw a difference in urgency. You saw a difference in what this tournament means. Because after the game, Suarez said it perfectly. We are a family. We play with passion, with love. We feel that jersey. We feel our country. That's it. That's the difference. I think that's a big reason why Venezuela is celebrating its first WBC title. And the United States is left asking why it only has one championship in a sport that it should dominate, a sport it created. Because let's be real about this. Baseball is America's game. It was built here. The best league in the world is here. The deepest talent pool is here. There is no reason the United States shouldn't be the standard in this tournament. And yet they're not. Why? Well, the other countries, I think this means a lot more. We hear it every single tournament. Players from the Dominican Republic, Japan, Venezuela, Puerto Rico. They'll tell you straight up, they think it's bigger than the World Series. That's how much it means to them. That's how much pride is tied into it. That's how much emotion they bring to it. And I'm not saying American players don't care, because they do. You saw it from guys like Bryce Harper there late, even though he was the guy that was talking about how the Olympics might be better than the WBC. Obviously, Aaron Judge, we're to see as captain. I could definitely say that Paul Skeens has given his all for Team USA with his connections and how important it is to not only a lot of people out there, but a lot of people that he played with at Air Force that are now serving in the military. But as a whole, it's not the same. It's just not. Because if it was, we wouldn't be having conversations about pitch limits. We wouldn't be having conversations about guys only appearing once. We wouldn't be having, rosters that feel like they're at 80% instead of 100%. And I get it. I understand the reality of this. MLB teams are protecting their investments, as they should. They're the ones spending the money for these guys to play at a high level. They're protecting arms. They're protecting seasons. They're protecting hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not wrong. But if baseball as a sport wants the WBC to truly grow the game globally, then they got to be all in. Not halfway in, not selectively in, but all in. Because right now, the WBC is trying to be two things at once. It's trying to be the global showcase of baseball while still fitting awkwardly into a preseason window where teams are worried about injuries. It just doesn't work. You can't have that both ways. You can't say this is the most important international baseball tournament in the world and then treat it like something that has to be managed, controlled, and limited as every team is making sure that their players are okay, which is fine. It's their right. And I think they're smart in doing that. A lot of these other countries, though, are emptying the tank. They're bringing the energy. They're bringing the best players. They're playing like this is everything. And that's why the environments feel a little different. That's why the crowd feels different. That's why the moments hit different. You watched that game in Miami last night. Over 36,000 fans, flags everywhere, noise bouncing off the roof, and it felt like October. But for Venezuela, that was more than October. That was identity. That was pride. That was everything. And until the United States matches that, this is going to keep happening. And I'll go even further. If Team USA wants to win more than one WBC title, they're going to have to change their mindset. Because it's not just about talent. We know the United States has talent. You can roll out a lineup that looks like an all-star team every single year. That's not the issue. But I think the issue is the commitment. I think the issue is urgency. And I think the issue is whether this tournament is truly a priority. Because we can't have situations where elite pitchers are only throwing once. We can't have the Tarek Skubal situation again. We can't have rosters dictated by what MLB teams are comfortable with if you want to have a legit tournament, which means you got to change the calendar if you want to continue this thing and if you want to be all in on this. You can't have players in midseason form facing players who are still ramping up. If this is going to be a global event baseball market, it is, then it needs to be treated like one. Maybe that means moving it. Maybe that means changing the calendar. Maybe that means creating a window where players can fully commit without fear of impacting their MLB season. Maybe it's committing to this every 4 years, right? Where it's not a huge impact on Major League Baseball's regular season. I don't know if this is something that could be negotiated in the CBA or what have you, but something definitely has to change because the potential of the WBC is enormous. And you saw it again last night. The passion, the atmosphere, the drama. That's how you grow the game internationally. I mean, just look at what's going on in Italy right now. I mean, in the next 15 to 20 years, you might see an influx of Italian baseball players because of what Team Italy accomplished. And I love what Vinny Pasquantino said the other day. Before they lost to Venezuela, he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, hopefully in 15 to 20 years, Team Italy is filled with mostly Italians and mostly people from the country and not us Americans that are, that have the Italian heritage. That's how you bring in new fans. That's how you make baseball feel global. But the United States, the face of the sport, has got to lead the charge. And right now it's not. And that's the frustrating part because I love what the WBC has become. I love how many more stars want to be a part of it. I love the energy. I love the pride. I love the way players talk about representing their countries. But I want to see that same energy from Team USA across the board. And not just from a few guys, but from everyone collectively. Because when that happens, when the United States truly buys in, when the best players show up fully committed, when MLB aligns with the tournament instead of working around it, that's when the WBC reaches its full potential. And that's when Team USA becomes what it should already be, the standard. Instead, right now, they're chasing it. And that's the problem. The WBC was created to kind of grow the game. And right now, they have probably reached the ceiling of what this current version of the WBC can become. And to me, the biggest question is now, how into this are we going to be in the WBC to really grow this game? How are we going to make this an even bigger deal? How do we catch and climb and try to be what soccer has done with the World Cup? How do we make this our version of the World Cup where everybody is locked in on this? That's where baseball really's got to make a decision. They got to make a decision on, do we really want to keep pushing this? Because if they don't, it's fine, then this tournament is what it is. But if they really want to be all in on growing this game in a lot of countries where baseball is not the number one sport, they're going to have to find a way to play this in the calendar where there aren't a lot of restrictions and you get to see the best in the world competing. That's how I see the WBC. I think right now with the way the players are and the way that the timing is for Major League Baseball, yeah, it's nice right now as a little bit of a, like from a fandom perspective in terms of being able to get a little bit of a taste of what baseball can be. But if you really want this thing to be what they say it's going to be, I think you got to move it if that's the case. What did you think of the game last night, Frank?
I thought the game was fine. I mean, it was just a decent enough game, pitching duel for most of the way. But to piggyback on what you've been saying here, I think part of the reason also is not just the players' reaction to it, which really bothered me with Bryce Harper. First of all, I understand I hate Bryce Harper. But you can't sit there and say, oh, well, I'd rather play in the Olympics. The Olympics is bigger. The Olympics is more important. And then take 5 minutes on a home run trot in the World Baseball Classic. You can't do that. You look like an idiot at that point. And then post-game, you have Derek Jeter on the Fox post-game saying, for people who say this is bigger than the World Series, have clearly never played in the World Series. You're delegitimizing the tournament by doing that. You can't build it up. You can't get players excited about this if you're just going to destroy it on the media in the media.
That's why I want to ask. That's why I've asked the question. Like, what exactly does baseball want to do with this thing? Like, what's the goal? Like, what they're telling us and what they're actually doing are two separate things. They can't say it's like this is our World Cup. This is what we want. We want to grow the game and then have the main team in this thing, Team USA, kind of half-ass it, right? Like, I just felt like Team USA from the get-go half-assed it. It started with Tarek Skubal and saying, I'm in, I'm all in, and then he pitches one game and he's like, I'm done. Meanwhile, he's pitching for Detroit, and he's throwing the same amount of pitches in a spring training game, which doesn't really matter. And
not only that, with Tarek Skubal, then getting media attention for driving in a rainstorm back to Miami to go and see the team.
That was such eyewash.
Are you kidding me?
That was such eyewash.
If he wanted to be there, stay there and keep the jersey on. Don't go back to Detroit spring training, please.
I agree. It started with Tarek Skubal. He was half in. He wasn't all in. And then it led to Mark DeRosa not knowing the rules. That's not being all in. And then it led to, and this was in between both of those things, but Bryce Harper saying the Olympics is, probably more important. All of Team USA, their actions said they're half in. They're not all in. So from a baseball perspective, and here's the deal, like people like the calendar right now because it's like we don't want to take away from the MLB season. That's fine. But that means you're not all in on this particular event. This is an event that you have to be all in on, and making it all in is putting it in the summertime after guys are ready to go. And you treat it like an all-star break, like hockey just did, which is a way more violent sport, by the way, than baseball. They do it, and they get rewarded for it. They did it with the Four Nations face-off, and they've now done it with the Olympics. They took 2.5 weeks off in the middle of the season to be able to make this happen. Now, the difference is they don't play as many games. Like, they ramped up. They had a bunch of games early, and they loaded up with games late. They're playing almost every night in this particular year. You'd have to finagle the calendar a little bit. Maybe start in WBC years early in the regular season, or you got to have scheduled double headers, which I don't think a lot of players would like, but you'd have to make the schedule fit it. And again, if you want to sit here and say all these things about how we want this game to grow because of the WBC, then you got to be all in on it. And Team USA is not all in on it.
It was just to wrap up, because we do have to go to break, but just to wrap up everything you've said over the last 12 minutes, there was one team that did not treat this like the most important thing out there, and it was the United States. One team.
Right.
They were the only one. They were the only one that did not treat this like a big tournament.
I mean, because the thing is, it's like even Italy was filled with Americans, and they had a ton of pride playing for a country that they are not citizens of, more than it seemed like Team USA was. And that's something that needs to change. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Meanwhile, as that was going on, Padres were in action. Big conversation about the rotation. German Marquez, how did he do yesterday? What did we think? We'll talk about it when we come back. Well, NFL free agency is here, and overreactions are everywhere. Vikings add Kyler Murray. Does that mean J.J. McCarthy is done? Not so fast. Falcons signed Tua Tagovailoa. Michael Penix Jr. might still be the starter when healthy. Steelers, their streak of winning seasons could finally end without a real quarterback solution. Kenneth Walker III signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. Fantasy hype is real, but history says don't overvalue him. A.J. Brown and Max Crosby didn't move. The trade market isn't over. And the Rams, L.A., made key upgrades and looks ready to compete for a Super Bowl again. Free agency is fun, but separating the hype from reality is where smart takes live. This is the time where we talk overreactions to the NFL free agent period and some of the trades that have already happened. And let's start with some quarterback shakeups, as the Vikings have signed Kyler Murray. J.J. McCarthy's future is now uncertain, but the Vikings not ready to give up yet. Falcons signed Tua Tagovailoa. Michael Penix Jr. is recovering from an ACL, likely still a starter when healthy. And right now, is this a quarterback shakeup in any of these places, or is this just a giant overreaction? For me, I find it to be an overreaction. I think a lot of teams are doing their due diligence right now.
Yeah, I believe so as well. The Kyler Murray thing, I think, has a little bit more ability to stand because of the trade. But, I mean, you've also got a trade for Justin Fields that happened this morning, too. So there are a bunch of quarterbacks moving around. Not to say that Justin Fields is going to challenge Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, but it is, I think, a little bit of an overreaction that these are quarterback shakeups and that McCarthy and Penix are out of a job.
What about Justin Fields getting traded to the Chiefs? Mahomes? He's coming off an injury. I think it's a good move for Kansas City to have a good backup. Somebody's got to take the snaps during the offseason while he recovers.
Exactly. Yep.
Pittsburgh Steelers are kind of facing reality. It's their first losing season since 2003 is possible after Mike Tomlin retires. They added Michael Pittman Jr. and Jamal Dean and Rico Dowdle. They lost Kenneth Gainwell and Isaac Seumalo. No quarterback solution yet. And Aaron Rodgers' return uncertain as age concerns are very real. I don't think the Steelers facing reality is an overreaction. I think they're honestly facing a reality of not being good in the near future. And it could be a couple of years of this rebuild, or even as disastrous as a decade if they don't get their quarterback situation settled.
Yeah, because Aaron Rodgers is not your long-term future. And even when you've had guys like Mason Rudolph, those have been injuries that you've been waiting for someone else to come back. So I would be very concerned if I were a Pittsburgh Steelers fan about the direction of the future of this team. Now, you do have a new head coach coming in, might change it a little bit. A lot of people in Pittsburgh maybe feel that it's change of scenery, new voice in there, could possibly change things, but this could be a very, very dark time for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I think so too. Be careful what you wish for, Pittsburgh, and get rid of Mike Tomlin. I don't necessarily think you're going to have the quick turnaround as you might think you're going to get. Kenneth Walker III, he wins the Super Bowl MVP with Seattle, and he's now in the Chiefs' backfield. Super Bowl MVP, signed with KC, expected heavy workload. History of injuries, plus Andy Reid's pass-heavy system suggests he won't dominate as a fantasy running back one. I honestly might disagree with the overreactions. I just, from a fantasy standpoint, I don't think it's that great of a pickup. if you are going to try to pick him up in fantasy football. From a Chiefs backfield perspective, I think it does change the dynamic a little bit for this offense.
Yeah, it certainly does. And it'll also allow Kansas City to kind of keep Patrick Mahomes in the backfield, not have him running for his life. You'd be able to hand the ball off a little bit more with a guy like Kenneth Walker. And what you saw out of him in the Super Bowl is that he is a guy who does not mind taking the hits, getting a bunch of work out. So I would be very surprised if Kansas City doesn't find a way to actively use him, if not just as an effort to try to save Patrick Mahomes a little bit of grief.
There's been some trade target stalemates, and the most notable players that we thought were going to be traded, one of them actually got traded for a little bit. But A.J. Brown for the Eagles and Max Crosby for the Raiders remain on their current teams after failed early trade talks. Teams may pursue trades closer to June or after the draft, but I don't necessarily know if this is a missed window yet, because there's still a long time for these two players to get traded. So I think it's an overreaction thinking these players are going to stay on their teams come August.
I mean, we're about a month and a half away from the draft.
Right.
So, I mean,
just everybody's main focus right now.
Yeah, there's still a lot of time. And now those draft picks do become a little bit less valuable after the draft, because your picks have already been made. You don't know who's going to be what. But yeah, I mean, Max Crosby surprised me a little bit. The fact.
Broadcasting live for the Bill House Studios, we know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. There's a lot of stuff that they could do with the WBC, I think, to make it even better. It just depends how all in they want to be. I still think it'd probably be beneficial to have it in the middle of the summer, but the problem that they run into is like all the teams, that's where they make all their money, is in the middle of the summer when they got kids out of school. I mean, that's like, there's so many of these rules, not really rules, but there's a lot of agreements with the schedule for Major League Baseball that benefit a lot of the organizations that they don't want to give up because that's their prime money making time. Like, aside from teams in the pennant race, Frank, September rolls around and having home September games is awful.
Yes.
Because kids are back in school. Nobody's going to games in the middle of the week. Same thing with like March and April. Kids are in school. Families aren't going to games in the middle of the week. It's hard. It's work days, all that stuff. And the prime portion of the year is in the summertime. That's when that's where all these teams make their money. So if you wanted to make the WBC in the summer, you'd have to find ways where these organizations that are making the most of their money still have a way to make money. My thing is, it's like, what if you did, like, you would have to find ways for them to like continue to have games be played while the WBC is going on, but you can't have like it affect the MLB season. You'd have to like have this, that to me needs to be the time where you do the call-ups, the September call-ups. And you just have minor league type. You just fill the games out, and you're playing like fun games or something. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. These are the things you'd have to do. You got to find ways to sell tickets at these stadiums that are relying on this in the middle of the summer. You get 1 week off of the All-Star break, and now you got to find 2 weeks that you got to try to make money for all of these organizations in terms of home games. And that, to me, is what you would have to do every 4 years to make this thing work. I think it's more of that than player health, if that makes sense.
I think it's every 3 years. So, I mean, you're kind of...
They can make it every 4.
Yeah,
they can move it around. I also think they should probably, if they wanted to do it in the summer, only do 4-team pools instead of 5-team pools.
You couldn't do it this summer because you're butting up against the World Cup. And no one's going to watch.
Right, right. But whatever you have to. No, you pick the years, and you every 4 years of that.
I agree, and I understand, but I think it needs. I don't think it's a scheduling problem and a timing problem. I think it's a baseball problem, and what I mean by that is, I don't think you see players pulling out of the All-Star game because they don't want to get hurt. They don't want to put the extra stress. They don't want to participate in the All-Star weekend because it's in the middle of the season. They don't want to get hurt. I think once that shift happens and once that shift changes of like, yeah, we want to get in, on as many things as possible, because all of that worry and all of that risk is going to magically go away if baseball's in the Olympics in 2028. No one's going to care about contracts. No one's going to care about the risk of getting hurt. They're going to be all in on that. Once you get to a point where the players, for the United States especially, are like that with the World Baseball Classic, it's not going to matter when you have it. And I think, as I saw Alyssa put in the chat, I think right now is kind of the perfect time, because it's a ramp up to the baseball season. You're not having everyone just sit there and do nothing. You're not playing meaningless games. You're getting more guys who are potential bench guys a chance to make the team right now with playing them during spring training. And it's a good distraction. Like this time in spring training, we call it the dog days of spring training. It's the perfect distraction right about now, and it ends a week before opening day.
Except you don't get any of the good pitchers to actually pitch. It's not a real indication of the actual teams. That's why
you don't get any of the good pitchers to pitch well or up to their potential during the All-Star game.
That's
either.
because the All-Star game means nothing. That's what it means. Like the WBC means something to a lot of these players. They're going to give their all for their country. You can't compare the WBC to the All-Star game in this sense, because the All-Star game, most of the players there don't even want to be there. They have no interest in being there.
Right.
Because they don't get paid for it. It's in the middle. It's their 1 week off that they get. They'd rather have the week off. And
so
you don't get anything if you win. You don't get anything if you win. It's just literally for fun.
So instead of a week off, you'd rather make them play a 3-week tournament? That means nothing towards the World Series?
It's 2 weeks. No. This is how you do the WB. Why do they do the World Cup? That's in the middle of the seasons, aren't they?
No, the international schedule, it's during the
they schedule around to that.
Yes.
Well, you can't do. What I'm saying is, this is the worst time to do this if you want the guys playing at the highest level. So you have to do it in the summer when baseball's at its height. And the big problem against it is not the players. This is when organizations make their most money, because that's when kids are out of school. That's the biggest reason why they fight over scheduling all the time. Like the Padres sacrifice 2 weeks of July in order to get better dates that fit for them because of the fact Comic-Con's here. So they always sacrifice the last 2 weeks of July that other teams want, and therefore they get to have opening day to start the year, or they get some other dates that they want. Every team has requests for the schedule of, this is when we can get the most people at our games. And what you have is in the middle of July, if you were to play this thing in the middle of July, now you have a bunch of empty stadiums in areas that use that for money. That's the big reason why they aren't going to do this. But I get, like, from a fan perspective, it's not the worst, because it's like, hey, I got something to watch in the middle, but you don't get to see the best pitchers pitch at the highest level. You got guys like Tarek School being like, nah, I will worry about the season. Same thing with the bullpen guy. I mean,
sure
the Padres limited. If they had Mason Miller last night, if they had Mason Miller pitch last night, Team USA is probably going to extra innings.
And no one's going to say this, but Daniel Palencia was in the same boat. If Venezuela was not in a save situation like they were last night, Palencia wouldn't have pitched. And then the conversation switches to, why didn't Palencia pitch?
Correct. Like, how much do
that's on the team. That's on their parent club. That's not on the manager. But
they have a reason to do that, because it's the beginning of the season, and nobody's built up at that point in time.
So
in the middle of the season, they don't have to worry about guys getting ramped up. They're already ready to go. They're already in the middle of their year.
Right, but you'd instead have the conversation of putting extra innings on their arms as they get set to go into a pennant race?
It'd be roughly around the same amount of innings. They would just add maybe a couple. The entire tournament took 14 days.
Yeah, if I'm gonna put 10 extra innings on my best pitcher, I'm going to do it during the pennant race. I'm not going to do it in a tournament.
Why is hockey allowing them to play in the middle of the season?
Because hockey is for maniacs.
That's the
why
answer.
hockey is for psychopaths.
Oh, hockey's just tougher players than baseball players. That's why they're allowed to play in the middle of the year. There's no perfect time for this tournament.
They wanted they didn't put the Four Nations there because they thought it would be the best option. They put the Four Nations tournament there because they wanted to replace All-Star Weekend and make something more fun. The World Baseball Classic is a separate tournament altogether. It's not a replacement for All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, but it's because they wanted to grow. They want to grow the game and all that stuff. But it's basically an all-star event, and they just do it at the beginning of the year. But at the beginning of the year, you don't get to see the best players play at the highest level, and a lot of players don't want to do it because they want to get ready for the season. I think it'd probably be better in the middle of the summer. That's when baseball's at its height. You might actually get better ratings for that as well. I mean, the diehard baseball fans are going to watch it regardless. But there's too much influence about what these organizations have to say with their players. And so you're never going to get the fullest level of baseball tournaments.
But again, you're saying that as if the teams don't influence some guys who get elected into the All-Star game that back out of it.
The All-Star game is meaningless. It's a different thing. These players are going to play. You're not understanding what I'm saying.
No,
they don't want to see pitchers throw 100 pitches in the middle of spring training. That's what they don't want to see.
Who threw 100 pitches? Who threw 100 pitches in this tournament?
Frank, you're not listening to me. Starting pitchers, they usually go about 100 pitches, right?
Yes.
Right? They don't want any of their guys doing that in the middle of spring training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have we seen anybody do that? No, we haven't. So you're not going to see a starter go out there and actually be a starting pitcher in a baseball tournament in the spring because they don't want guys throwing a lot of pitches. That's why Tarek Skubal is on a pitch count. That's why Mason Miller couldn't pitch back-to-back days. All of these involved with preseason ramp-up for the year where injuries can happen. But once guys are in regular season mode, they are less susceptible to getting hurt than guys getting geared up for the season. That is the whole argument about this. The risk. It's more of a risk at the beginning of the season when guys are not built up and strong and in game shape. In the regular season, they're in game shape. They're not as worried. Yes, they're going to be worried about their players in the middle of the year, but that is the portion of the time of the year that makes the most sense to do this tournament. There's no time that's going to make this tournament make sense.
How many
because
pitches?
Baseball is worried about your arm, and you can't throw a baseball year-round.
How many pitches did Walker Buehler throw yesterday or 2 days ago when he pitched?
I think he threw like 70.
Nolan McLean threw 63 yesterday. Eduardo Rodriguez threw 57 yesterday, the two starters for the two teams.
And? Is that a full regular season start?
No, but it's a spring training start. That's
Right,
what the
but-
teams want out of them. They're not going crazy. They're not doing 100 pitch
Right, because
outings.
it's the spring, Frank. If it was the middle of the season, it's fine. You're not understanding what I'm saying.
They also went into the fifth inning, which is something that you would expect a starter to do during the regular season.
Right.
They pitched into the fifth inning. Both of them did. So it's not like they threw 40 pitches and were out in the second inning. They had a quote-unquote full start on a pitch count.
But what I'm saying is, if you played it in the summer when they're built up, you could actually see these guys play at a high level.
Okay.
But they're not right now. That's why. The WBC belongs in the middle of the season. If you want to do a real tournament where the guys are really built up.
It's more on the parent teams than it is on the tournament, than the timing of the tournament.
No, it's more on the fact that they're going to lose money in July. That's the real reason why it's not in July. And that's the real reason why they don't let them play in the Olympics, because they can't have their stars leaving in the middle of the season unless they take a break. And they don't want to take a break because that's when people go to games. It's the whole reason why they don't do it at that point in time. How did the Padres do? We'll talk about that when we come back. If you want the storyline that could define this NCAA tournament, it might actually be the freshmen. Look at the number one overall seed, the Duke Blue Devils. They're led by freshman superstar Cameron Boozer, who's averaging over 22 points and 10 rebounds a game and is the National Player of the Year favorite. But he's not the only young star in this tournament. At BYU, the Cougars, freshman AJ DeBansta actually led the entire country in scoring and is projected to be the number one pick in the 2026 and an NBA draft. Across the bracket, you've got young NBA talent everywhere, transfers, freshmen, future lottery picks. That's why this tournament could be chaos in 2026, because in March Madness, one superstar can really take over a game. And this year, the sport's biggest stars might be teenagers. College basketball's NCAA tournament is going to be a little bit different this year. It just feels different. If you're looking at this year's bracket and thinking this could be one of the best NCAA tournaments in years, you're not alone. And the reason is the tournament has everything that makes March Madness great. You've got elite number one seeds. You have massive NBA talent. You have experienced championship programs and some mid-majors capable of blowing up your bracket in the first weekend. And at the top of the field, the 4 number one seeds are loaded.
Yeah, Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and the Florida Gators. Those are your 4 number one seeds after Selection Sunday over the past weekend. Each of those teams, it has a legitimate case to cut down the nets at the end of this tournament. Duke is led by the best player in the country, Cameron Boozer, who's putting together a historic season, over 22 points and 10 boards per game, while shooting 41% from three-point range. Arizona might be the most balanced team in the field, with 7 players averaging nearly double figures, while Michigan is overwhelming teams with one of the biggest lineups in the country. And don't forget about the Gators. Florida, the defending champs, are peaking at the right time, winning 11 straight games entering the NCAA tournament.
There is star power everywhere. Another reason this tournament is fascinating is the amount of NBA talent in the bracket. Transfers and freshmen have completely reshaped the sport. Michigan's Yaxel Lindenberg is a projected NBA lottery pick and one of the most dominant two-way players in the field. Meanwhile, freshmen are everywhere, like mentioned before. One of the most exciting players in the tournament is A.J. DeBansta at BYU, a freshman who led the nation in scoring and could be the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft. That's the modern NCAA tournament. Young superstars mixed with veteran teams trying to make one last run. And that leads to some very dangerous teams that are outside the top seeds.
Yeah, and now here's the thing that makes March Madness unpredictable. Some of the most dangerous teams aren't even the top seeds. Take Michigan State, for example, the classic Tom Izzo March team. They don't have any NBA lottery picks, but they defend, they rebound, and they play tough. Exactly the kind of team that ends up in the Final Four. Another team to watch, of course, every year is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They have been elite defensively all year, and if injured star Braden Huff returns, they suddenly become a legitimate Final Four sleeper. And then there are wildcard teams like Nebraska, St. Louis, Utah State, all teams that are very, very capable of busting a bracket very early.
I think on paper, a lot of these mid-major programs have a good chance to make a run. But at the same time, last year there was only 7 first-round upsets. Now, upsets are included in the 8-9 matchups, which are usually kind of coin flip games anyway. I would like to know where these upsets might be in terms of a mid-major program knocking off a Power Four. I think it's going to be very few and far between because, as we have discussed before, the parity in the Power Four there's a lot of parity in the Power Four. It's razor thin, the difference between teams at the top of the Power Four and teams at the bottom of the Power Four. But the biggest difference in disparity between college basketball teams are Power Four teams and mid-major programs. You've seen more Power Four teams get into the NCAA tournament. You saw a lot of them win last year in the early rounds. So from that perspective, I don't know if there's going to be as many upsets. Like, can St. Louis hang with some of the best teams in the country? Can Utah State hang with some of the Power Four programs? That's going to be a big question mark, I think, going into this tournament. But when you look at Power Four schools that might be ranked or getting a 10 seed or maybe a 9 seed or whatever, those are schools that I would be more afraid of to knock off a number 1 or a number 2 or a number 3 or whatever early in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a bunch of fun teams that are coming out here to San Diego for the first round. We know that we kind of had a feeling that Arizona would be coming out here. They'll be facing the Long Island Sharks in the first game on Friday. Utah State, as we've talked about here, will be playing Villanova here. That'll be a 1:10 start. Northern Illinois will take on St. John's here. Cal Baptist will be taking on Kansas here. That's the nightcap of the 4 games in the first round. So a bunch of big name teams will be coming here to San Diego as well to try to put an end to some of these potential bracket busters, especially that Villanova-Utah State game.
Well, I think that game's a great basketball game.
Yes.
Villanova and Utah State, I think, is going to be awesome. I mean, you have a traditional program. I should probably hear that song by Black Sabbath. I should probably listen to it. That's the second time now in a month that somebody has come in and asked me about that. During the break, John Flint from Quezon, he comes in. You know, a big listener of our show, which is great, as he leaves Quezon. That's everybody loves Quezon. You know what? We're your favorite show's favorite show. We're your favorite show's favorite station. Even better, because I know he listens to the morning guys too. He comes in, he peeks his head in, as Frank and I settle the differences on the WBC. We're actually in agreement on all of this stuff.
Yeah, more or less. Yes.
Money is the factor for why WBC is not played during the summer.
Which I never disagreed with, by the way.
John pops his head in. He was like, Surprenant? Is that how you actually pronounce your last name? I'm like, well, that was the Americanized version of it. He was like the Black Sabbath song? Have you ever heard that song? And I was like, what? I'm like, no. You're the second person to ask me that, though, because I had a valet my car. I hate valeting cars. I hate doing it. I never know what to tip the guy. It's always like it's always like a mandatory valet. I also don't understand free valet. It's like, what's free? Why the free valet? I still got to tip the guy. I could park it myself. But anyway, so I went to a restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and they had a valet. Now, that place actually needed a valet because there's nowhere to park. And I go and I get my car back, and I have, my license plate is a play on my last name, just like my grandfather's got a version of it, my uncle's got a version of it. And he goes he gets out of the car, and he gives me the keys. He's like, "Are you a Black Sabbath fan?" And I was like, "I'm sorry?" He's like, "Your license plate, Surprenant. Are you a Black Sabbath fan?" And I was like, "No, what?" He was like, "Yeah, it's a Black Sabbath song." He's like, "That's like, oh, I thought you were like a diehard Black Sabbath fan." I'm like, "No, oh, I'm not." John Flint said the same thing. He comes in here. Apparently, John Flint, Black Sabbath cover band guy in college. It's a story for a different day. We're going to have to get him on for that. I've never heard that song ever in my life.
Yeah, you might want to.
I'm going to have to. Have you heard that song?
No.
We'd play it on air. We don't know how bad it is, though. Can't just like willy-nilly play it. I'm glad they got the name right, though, finally. That was fun yesterday. They finally fixed it. All right, let's talk about the pods a little bit. We do have people that want to wait on hold. I guess we can get to them in a second. Let's get out to Dexter in Spring Valley. Dexter, what's going on? All right, see you, Dexter. Dan in Arizona, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Dan?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing well. What do you got for us? You staying cool out there?
Heating up a little bit. Here's the thing with the World Baseball Classic. How about this idea? And this is not mine. I heard someone else mention it. What if you do the pool play during spring training like you do now, and then you take the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals during All-Star week? So that week there's no All-Star game. You got a 4-day break anyway. All you need is 3 extra days, and you could do it kind of like what hockey did with the Four Nations tournament during their All-Star break. What do you think?
I love that idea. I mean, that's what international soccer does throughout the year anyway. You might as well do the qualifying and the pool play during spring training, so you still get that. And you could do the bracket play in the middle of the season. I mean, how many days did it take to get through the bracket play? Like a week?
Not even. Yeah, about that, actually.
Took about a week. I mean, you'd have all the same players in the thing anyway. And then that way you don't even have to worry about, I mean, instead of, here's the other thing too. It's like, oh, we make all this money on the All-Star game. We want the All-Star game. They could literally have whoever gets to host the All-Star game that year, they could literally have like a different game for the next, make it 10 days. They have 10 days off which is plenty of time. It's a little bit extra on the days off for like the teams playing, fine, for the Major League Baseball teams. But they could have the pool. And how about you do? And then the other thing, too, is you could just literally have 4 pools of 4, and the top team can advance out of every bracket. And then you play the semifinals and then the final. I mean, you could literally do a semifinal, winner go home on like Monday, and then you could do like a best of 3 Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, give everybody Saturday, Sunday off, and then you start Monday back after that in July. That actually isn't that bad.
I mean, that's CONCACAF Champions Cup, UEFA Champions League. The only issue with that would be like for Champions Cup and Champions League and stuff like that, Europa League, that's all like a team, an individual team. That's not international tournaments. They do international friendlies to get players from all over. That's the only issue that I potentially see with it, is getting players from every team to coordinate to come in on one weekend. But other than that, I don't mind that idea at all.
Yeah, but that would only be for the teams that advanced.
Yeah.
Right? So like if they did exactly what they did this year in terms of like how they seeded the World Cup, where like USA and Japan are in different leagues. I mean, theoretically you're going to have USA, Japan, Dominican, and Venezuela, or maybe Italy or whatever. I mean, that's usually the same group, which is mostly MLB guys anyway. And so the only ones that have to play that week are the ones that qualified. Like teams like Brazil and like a lot like the Czech and all of those other countries that don't have, that don't have a lot of MLB guys, they probably won't qualify anyway. If they do, then they're going to be excited to come to the United States anyway. And it's not like they have to practice. They've been playing the whole time, but if you look at like this year's calendar for the All-Star game, they got the Home Run Derby on the 13th, All-Star game on the 14th that week. Instead of playing that series, you could take out those 2 series. You're going to be off for whatever, a couple of days, but you could literally, Major League Baseball has those like 2-game series they throw in there. Have the 2-game series on the Friday and Saturday before, take that Sunday off, do a Home Run Derby that Sunday or whatever, do the Futures game. You can still do all the stuff you do during All-Star break. And then play the semifinals in a doubleheader on Monday. Give everybody Tuesday off. Maybe Tuesday's the regular All-Star game with the guys that aren't qualified, and you can play that during that week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the best of 3 series, whatever, and then take the 2 days off, whatever. Like there's ways around it. They can make a lot of different things. I like that better than them playing in all of it in the spring, and then that way you don't get any excuses for guys pitching and all that other stuff. And a lot of these players are going to want to play in that. Dexter's back. What's going on, Dexter?
Hi, guys. Sorry, I apologize. I was in a dead zone. I wanted to kind of chime in a little bit on what you guys are building on with the WBC. It seems to me that, logistically, the what you just said is probably the closest thing to feasible, I guess, But my big thing is this. As I was watching the different games during the course of the tournament, I noticed something about the American team. And everything that you said at your show's open is spot on. Now, there's a documentary on Netflix about the Redeem team. And when I watched that, say what you will about guys like, LeBron James and whatnot, but they looked at in that documentary, they really went full on about breaking it down, like how they were embarrassed in front of the world when they lost, and all this, that, and the other thing, and they developed this burning hunger to redeem themselves, and they went out and got the best that they could, including towards the last minute, the late Kobe Bryant. And again, say what you will about Kobe, but he was the spark that lit that team and pulled them together. And, that's how they went and redeemed themselves. They got the gold medal in the Olympics. These the ball players that I saw for the U.S. outside of Terrence Skugel and maybe our pitcher, I didn't see a lot of intensity from these guys. I just saw these guys as basically treating it like an extended spring training thing.
Yeah, that's what I saw too from the American players. But again, it's just the difference, right? Team USA is interested in a World Series, and a lot of the other countries were interested in winning the WBC. So, yeah, it's trying to tweak it a little bit. We'll talk about the Padres and German Marquez's outing from yesterday when we come back. Some spring training news. All guests join us on the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not big bank banking, it's better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station 97.3, The Fan. Elisa had to ask, what do you listen to in terms of music? Because I talked about I hadn't heard that Black Sabbath song. I have heard Black Sabbath. Let's not get crazy here.
He's not that deep under the rock.
That's right. I have a very eclectic music taste. I was all over the place yesterday. Different genres for different moods of the day. I'll listen to Frank Sinatra. I'll listen to EDM. I'll listen to hard rock. I'll listen to Nickelback. I'll listen to Blink-182, alternative rock. I'll listen to country music. I'll listen to hip-hop. I'll listen to rap. I'll listen to all of it. I don't know if anybody, I guess the people on YouTube don't get to hear our rejoins. It's kind of all over the place for our rejoins in terms of music. So, yeah. No, I don't really like Taylor Swift. Sorry, Johnny. Johnny's projecting in the chat his love of Taylor Swift, apparently. I don't really like Hardy either, by the way. That one song that we have is okay. That's about it. But
that song is acceptable.
Yeah, I just, I get the concept of Hardy is not bad. It's kind of like rock country. I mean, there's not a lot of rock music anymore. Like, Woods is very into music, so he's probably better suited to talk about this than me. But like, country has turned into rock music now. There is no current rock music. It's very, very hard to find. Country has kind of taken over like the rock genre, if you will. There's like this country rock. I do that as well. Juan Ruiz in the YouTube chat says, Braden actually listens to the big TCU broadcast moments on replay. Sometimes. Don't check out my YouTube history. It's going to be a lot of 2014 TCU, Texas Tech. Watching Patrick Mahomes lose. It's good stuff. Anyway. 833-288-973, 833-288-973. Let's talk about German Marquez a little bit. Okay, so yesterday was a big day for the Padres. Rotation battle is coming down to the wire. It's going to come down. I mean, Walker Buehler's going to be on this team, but that number 5 starter, with the absence now of Joe Musgrove, is going to be between a guy like German Marquez and a JP Sears who pitched in a minor league game. You got Marco Gonzalez, you got Tristan McKenzie, but German Marquez might have just saved his chances with one swing performance from yesterday. He delivered a much-needed outing in a 9-6 win over the Seattle Mariners. He struck out 9 batters over 5 innings while he allowed just 3 runs, including 2 homers, a couple of bad pitches, but the overall performance was a major step forward after his previous outing where he gave up 6 runs and struggled with command. The key difference in yesterday's outing, though, was adjustments to his delivery, as reported by Jeff Sanders in the UT today. After working with pitching coach Ruben Niebla, Marquez focused on staying back in his mechanics, which helped him command all of his pitches, particularly his breaking ball and changeup. Even with the strong outing, Marquez's spring ERA is still 9.26, highlighting the inconsistency, of course, that is defined as camp. But timing does matter, and this performance came with likely only 1 start left before the final roster decisions for the 5-man rotation. And the competition's very intense. Nick Pivetta, Michael King, Randy Vasquez are locked in the top 3 rotation spots. There are likely only 1 or 2 openings remaining. I do think Walker Buehler gets the number 4 spot in the rotation, coming off of that dominant outing he had a couple of days ago, which leaves JP Sears, who pitched in a minor league game yesterday, Marco Gonzalez, who's coming off of a rough outing over the weekend, and Tristan McKenzie. And I think right now, Walker Buehler and German Marquez have arguably made the strongest late pushes. Buehler with efficiency and run prevention, and Marquez with a nice, good swing and miss upside. Meanwhile, the Padres are also shaping up their bullpen, not just in terms of personnel, but workload. Adrian Morejon, Jeremiah Estrada, David Morgan are being stretched out and used more frequently as the team prepares for regular season usage patterns. Focus is now on stacking appearances close together, simulating real in-season conditions. Several key bullpen arms are also about to rejoin the team from the WBC. Mason Miller, Alec Jacob, Rob Marinaccio, and Wandy Peralta. When looking at this rotation now with how German Marquez pitches, a couple of things that stood out to me in this article by Jeff Sanders today. And one of them in particular was his adjustments that he made with Ruben Niebla and then the bounce back outing that he had, with some of the stuff being mechanical with his off-speed pitches. You already know his velo is going to be around 94 to 96, which is good. But now with the breaking ball and some couple tweaks, like I keep going back to what Ben said on Monday on Ben and Woods, and I totally believe this. He's spot on. If German Marquez is on this team, it is because Ruben Niebla and the pitching staff think they can get him right during the season. He's progressed enough where they can get him right. I don't think it's going to be a desperate move. There's other guys in the team that you can throw in there to be a desperate arm in the rotation where you just need somebody. You just need somebody to eat innings, where you don't need a guy like German Marquez to do that. I think he is going to improve as they move along and as he, again, builds back up after being hurt more than a season ago and now working with Ruben Niebla, which I think is the best thing that's going to happen to German Marquez. I think you really have to rely on your pitching staff in terms of the coaching staff going into this season. And I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, about the staff that Craig Stammen put together. I like what they've done on the offensive side of things. I love the approach that the batters have had with Steven Souza Jr. as the hitting coach. That approach has been different, more modern style of baseball, as Fernando Tatis Jr. said before he went to the WBC. And I can also speak on that with the pitching side of things. You know, Ruben Niebla is part of this organization because of how well he is as a pitching coach. We've seen that so far. I think you really got to trust Ruben in this first month before you get Griffin Canning back and before you get Joe Musgrove back to finish out the rotation. And I'm encouraged by what German Marquez did yesterday. Yes, I know he gave up a couple of home runs, but the ball was flying yesterday. I mean, Luis Castillo got rocked again for Seattle by Padres pitching. But I look at this and I think that German Marquez is a guy that can fill in as a number 5. And I think it's an extended tryout for him and Walker Buehler in the first month of the season. If he had another clunker of an outing yesterday, I'd be really concerned about this rotation. I'm not after what I saw yesterday. And I think he'll probably get one more start, I would imagine, in spring training. I don't know if that's been announced or not, but we're running out of days here with the Padres being off today. They got a split squad tomorrow.
I believe so, yes.
I think they got the split squad tomorrow. No.
Oh, no, that's
Friday.
The split squad's Friday. Yeah.
They got the White Sox tomorrow. They got a split squad on Friday. They got the spring breakout game on Saturday night. But the game against the Brewers will be on before then. And then they got Arizona and Seattle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He might get one more start against the Seattle Mariners on Monday. That would be my guess if they decided to throw him one more time. But I think he's got to be the number 5 starter at this point in time, based on where we've seen. And I thought that was a good bounce back yesterday, Frank, out of German Marquez. And the fact that a couple of tweaks to his mechanics led to his performance in this game, I think that's good news for Ruben Niebla and the pitching coach, the pitching coaches, that they're going to get some of these guys right during the season.
Yeah, 78 pitches, 9 strikeouts over 5 innings. That's nothing to sniff at. And the 2 home runs, whatever. I mean, it's your number 5 starter. You're not looking for an ace here. You're not expecting German Marquez to come in and just lay guys down. But a solid performance all around from German Marquez, and also Matt Waldron too, coming in after that, settling down, getting the win, and a good outing for him as well. Another guy who's fighting for a spot in this rotation.
Yeah, he is fighting for a spot. His velo is way up too, which is great to see for a guy like Matt Waldron. Now, in terms of the bullpen, how about Adrian Morejon? Extend that guy immediately. I mean, we said that last year, though, on the show, because we know that it's coming down to the wire with the, I mean, is this his final year or is it next year? I think it might be his final year this year.
Let me check here.
It is. This is his last year. He's 27 years old. That's got to be, to me, priority number 1 going into this season and through the offseason, is getting Adrian Morejon under contract for a long period of time.
And this is not an arbitration. They avoided arbitration with his previous contract. So it's not like he's got another year of arbitration coming up after this or whatever. It's no, they bought him out of all that.
He got $3.9 million in the deal before the arbitration hearing. So this is the last year of Adrian Morejon. He's touching a hundo again. He's good. And he's a great piece in this bullpen, and he's a lefty, which makes it even better. But he's throwing a little bit more. Estrada's throwing more. David Morgan's throwing more. They're trying to get built up for the regular season. Obviously, I'm interested to see. I thought Ron Marinaccio pitched pretty well in the WBC for Italy. He's still trying to battle for that spot. And the Padres have made a couple of roster moves yesterday. One arm officially is heading the other direction. Ty Adcock, who was optioned to AAA El Paso after returning from an oblique injury, so he is not part of the bullpen conversation anymore. And despite showing the ability to work through high-pressure situations, he's kind of been squeezed out by the depth that the Padres had. He was the first free agent they signed this offseason, and he got optioned out of AAA. On the injury side of things, Jason Adam took a key step forward yesterday. He threw a scoreless inning in a minor league game, so it's good that he's getting some game action. His first live action in the spring. He's not fully game ready yet, according to the reports, but he is trending towards being available closer to opening day. I think that one's going to be a game time decision. I think when we're at Baja Ricks on Thursday, the 26th, and we're waiting for Ben and Woods to finish their show, and when that roster comes out during their show, I think it's going to be 50-50 whether or not he's on it or he's on the injured list.
I think so. I think he probably will start on the injured list, but I have a feeling that I would not be surprised either way. I feel like he's not going to make it, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
He's trying to do everything he possibly can to make this team at the beginning. He's going to be on the team, but be ready to go by opening day. Yes. That was his goal in the offseason. He broke that with us, with Sam.
That was during the...
was it the Craig Stammen press conference or the Michael King press conference? I think it was the
King presser.
Yeah, he said it after there, and he was just like, yeah, I'm hoping to be ready by opening day. Excuse me?
Huh?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Replay review. Other news for you, Samad Taylor was reassigned to minor league camp after dealing with dehydration-related cramping. So he's back in the minor leagues. Jackson Wolf was also sent down. It trimmed the major league camp roster to 51 players. They got to get that thing down to 26. So this update obviously reinforces a couple of things for the Padres. The rotation battle still open after the top four, if you will. But I think Armand Marquez is solidifying that number 5 spot a little bit more now. Performances in the final week of spring training are going to carry some massive weight, and the bullpen is shifting from evaluation to readiness mode. So, one outing can still change everything for a lot of these players. And I look at the bullpen, and there's a lot of interest in the bullpen. There's a lot of changing parts in the bullpen too. There's a lot of guys battling for spots. We haven't spent a lot of time as of late on the bullpen because the rotation has had a lot of the news, but this bullpen's getting healthy with some of the players. They're getting guys back from the WBC. There's some pretty big decisions to be made with the bullpen coming up in the next couple of days, because when we went into spring training, there was 1, maybe 2 spots open depending on Yuki Matsui. And if that's still the case, it's guys like Ron Marinaccio and Logan Gillespie still battling for a spot. I know Alec Jacob is part of the mix. What are you going to do with Kyle Hart and some of these long relievers that you can throw in the bullpen as well? The bullpen is definitely another big topic of conversation, Frank, but it is a sign of the biggest depth on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And that bullpen depth is going to be very, very key as the season goes on. We know it takes more than 26 guys. It's going to take about 40 to possibly 50, and the bullpen guys are going to be very, very big for that.
The biggest thing, though, too, is we talked about it with Sam yesterday. It's going to come down to a number. They're going to try to keep as many of these guys in it as possible. And when I mean in it, I mean on the team as possible, because this is a team that you mentioned, Nick, you could use the depth, but they got a lot of players that could opt out of contracts and go somewhere else. if they think they've pitched well enough to get picked up. But that's the question, is whether or not these players think that they are, or whether or not teams think these players are good enough for them to add to their roster. Like Tristan McKenzie, I think about a little bit in a sense of he was kind of the wild card to make this team. He's pitched okay. He hasn't been that great. He still probably needs a little bit more work. I don't think Tristan McKenzie's pitched well enough to make another MLB team where he's going to be part of the rotation on a daily basis. I could see the Padres being able to get him through waivers and put him in AAA, or really in reality, since he's on a minor league deal, I could see him actually accepting the assignment to AAA and working a little bit. Because if you look at, if the Padres get into a little bit of an issue with starting pitching, I would imagine Tristan McKenzie is probably the first phone call they make down in AAA. And I think Sam talked about that yesterday a little bit. But as of right now, as we get closer to spring training, I look at the rotation as, and they haven't made any official announcements yet that I am aware of, but I'm thinking Nick Pivetta starts opening day, and I don't think that's that crazy of a comment. I think Michael King probably pitches game 2. I think Randy Vasquez pitches game 3. I think Walker Buehler pitches game 1 against the Giants the following Monday, and I think German Marquez pitches the following Tuesday, game 2 of the series against San Francisco. And then after that, I think they roll through the rotation a couple times, and if it's a disaster, then you're going to see Tristan McKenzie maybe coming up. Because I think Tristan McKenzie will be able to start this season in the minor leagues. I don't think he's pitched well enough to be an everyday starter in somebody's rotation right now. And I honestly think like he's making strides with Ruben Niebla, and he might feel comfortable with that and being part of this organization instead. I mean, there's a lot of, we heard it from Bowen the other day after the game. He had another home run yesterday of why he signed here in San Diego. He's like, I'm tired of playing for organizations that don't want to win or aren't winning organizations. He came from the Pirates, by the way. That also goes a long way. I think a lot of guys want to be a part of something that has a chance of winning. The bench. We talked about it with Sam yesterday. Ty France went yard yesterday. Jose Miranda still competing for a spot. We're going to talk a little bit more about Jose Miranda and the likelihood of him making this team when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego Sports Station 97.3, The Fan. San Diego FC just pulled off one of the wildest wins of their season, and they did it in a hard way. In the CONCACAF Champions Cup, San Diego beat Liga MX's side Toluca 3-2. But here's the crazy part. They played most of the match down a man in the final minutes with just 9 players on the field. Marcus Invarksen was sent off early. Toluca scored, and it looked like the night might be over. But San Diego fought back. David Vasquez scored twice, and then Anders Dreyer delivered an incredible golazo to give SDFC the lead. Even after a second red card late in the match, San Diego held on to win and now takes a 3-2 advantage into the second leg in Mexico. For an expansion club, this kind of resilience is a huge sign that San Diego FC might be building something special. The question now, can they finish the job in Toluca and keep their Champions Cup run alive? It's been a wild week for San Diego FC, and somehow the expansion club keeps finding ways to stay in the fight. Frank, you were at the CONCACAF Champions Cup. How was San Diego able to pull off one of the most dramatic wins of their young season?
It's been about a week, and I still have no idea how that happened. It was absolutely incredible. They pulled off one of the most dramatic wins of their young season, a 3-2 victory over Deportivo Toluca FC at Snapdragon Stadium, and they did not do it in an easy way. They went down 10 men just 16 minutes into the match after Marcus Ingvartsen was sent off. Toluca immediately capitalized on the penalty kick and got the 1-0 lead. But San Diego FC somehow, some way, got better going down a man. And David Vasquez, who was more or less getting picked on by Toluca all night long, was the one that did it for them.
Yeah, he scored to equalize it in the first half and then struck again just after halftime to give the home side a surprising lead. Then came the highlight moment. Star winger Anders Dreyer delivered an absolute golazo to make it 3-1, one of the best goals of the season so far. And things got even crazier late. Mano Dua picked up a red card in the 88th minute, leaving San Diego with 9 players. Toluca converted the penalty to cut the lead to 3-2, but San Diego held on. They played 2 men down in stoppage time. The expansion club somehow survived the late push and will take a 1-goal advantage into the second leg in Mexico, a place where when you're on the road, goals count as double in this CONCACAF Champions Cup. It would be very imperative for San Diego FC to get a goal early in this contest.
Yeah, you really can't lose. A draw or a win is fine, but you really cannot lose. You're only going to dig yourself into a hole if you start allowing goals, and you can't really use the way they played against Pumas as kind of a measuring stick here, because they're coming into this game with completely different motivations. They were up 4-1. Now they're only up 3-2. It's going to be a very different contest from what you had a couple of weeks ago against Pumas.
Now, let's talk about their MLS match that they had over the weekend. They ended up having a 3-3 draw as they battled FC Dallas over the weekend. Goals everywhere, and it was really Dallas striker Petar Musa that stole the spotlight with a hat trick.
Yeah, he was really, really good. Had the equalizer in the 5th minute of added time. San Diego still showed plenty offensively as Oni Valakari scored twice, once from the penalty spot and another a little bit later on. His first multi-goal game in MLS, while Ingvartsen added another goal from the penalty spot as well. That made it 3-1, if I remember correctly. It might have been 3-1 or 2-0 at that point. But still, San Diego FC played their game. Unfortunately, Dallas was just a little bit too much of a pain in the neck over the course of the night.
Yeah, despite controlling the possession, San Diego allowed Dallas too many chances and paid the price late. And what this means is the biggest takeaway from the week, San Diego FC might have already that identity that they're resilient between fighting off Toluca with 9 players and going toe-to-toe in a 6-goal MLS thriller. The team has shown that they're not afraid of chaos. Mm-hmm. And they're not afraid to go toe-to-toe with you in any type of way you want to play soccer. But the flip side is defensive consistency. Giving up last-second equalizer in MLS and facing heavy pressure in the Champions Cup shows there's still work to do defensively. It's a very young defensive line, though.
It is a very, very young defensive line. I don't know if it's necessarily defensive inconsistency that's the problem. I think that they had a lot of guys who were out on the pitch that had just came out of a war against Toluca a couple of nights prior, and just had a little bit of an off night. They were a little bit sluggish. They were a little bit behind. Also, you had Pablo Cisniega behind them for the first time this season since Faria has taken over and has done incredibly well. So I don't necessarily think it's defensive inconsistency. I think it was just they were showing signs of battle from a couple of nights earlier.
So looking ahead, the schedule doesn't slow down. First, San Diego heads to Mexico for the second leg of the game of the match against Toluca at Estadio Nemesio Diaz in Champions Cup round of 16. Then they return home for an MLS match against Real Salt Lake on March 22nd at Snapdragon Stadium. A strong result in either match could give the expansion club major momentum early in talking about the Sportico valuations of teams right now. It just came out, Sportico's value of organizations. Anybody surprised who number one is?
Would they happen to be on our television screen right now?
They usually are, always. But no, they're not. Number one valued franchise in all of American sports. Worth $12.8 billion.
Oh, in all of sports?
All of sports, not Major League Baseball. Dallas. Out of the top 5, 3 are NFL teams and 2 are NBA teams. For the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2. San Diego's number sports station 97 through the fan. We're broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. Frank, answer.
Does not know how. Huh?
Top 5 most valuable franchises in American professional sports, according to Sportico. You got the Cowboys. Yeah, there's 2 other NFL teams, and there's 2 NBA teams.
The Lakers being one of them.
Lakers are 5th.
Celtics?
No.
Really? Okay.
They would be number 2, by the way. They're the 2nd most valuable franchise in all of professional sports in the United States, behind the Dallas Cowboys NBA team. You're going to be shocked.
Is it the Knicks?
No.
Okay. So it's not the Knicks, it's not the Celtics, it's not the 2 most obvious ones.
Aside from the Lakers, who you already guessed.
Couldn't be the Bulls, could it?
No, Bulls are 34th. This franchise is valued at $11.33 billion.
Who could be worth that much that's not the Knicks or the Celtics?
I'll give you a hint. It's going to give it away. There is a connection to the Padres.
The arena gave the Clippers that much?
No. Clippers are
the
19th.
Warriors. The Warriors.
The Golden State Warriors, who is owned by who?
Oh, God.
Lacob.
That's it. Yeah, I was going to...
It's owned by Joe Lacob.
I don't know why Ballmer came into my head, but I knew that was wrong.
They're worth $11.33 billion. 2nd highest valued franchise in professional sports in the United States, according to Sportico. I mean, who's coming up with this? I know it's Sportico, but like what individual is putting this together? It has been updated. The Padres are valued at $3.1 billion.
Lovely.
Padres got to throw that into the next negotiation. Hey, you know what? Sportico said 3.1, so Padres coming at 75th on the list.
And who are we to disbelieve Sportico, you know?
Right. Can you name the other 2 NFL teams?
Eagles.
Eagles are the 11th ranked most valuable franchise in professional sports in America, according to Sportico. They're worth $8.43 billion.
San Francisco's got a lineage in a relatively new stadium.
They're 10th, $8.6 billion.
Jeez.
They're getting closer.
Rams.
You would think the Chargers are then close, right?
Possibly, you know, they play in the same building. They don't own said building, but they play in it.
They're 31st in America. They're the 21st highest ranked NFL team in terms of franchise valuation at $6.21 billion.
Oof.
Close. Did we think that's like the same spot? Are you telling me they'd be like last if they were still in San Diego?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
In terms of like compared to like the rest of the NFL? I mean, what a disparity between the LA Rams and the LA Chargers who play in the same building.
I'm also assuming that I guess the next team would be New England.
No, they're 9.
What? Oh, my God.
The team that you somewhat root for is number 4. The New York Giants are the 4th most valuable franchise in the United States, according to Sportico.
And that's also big because Tisch said he's selling his shares off, too.
Right. So the Giants are 4th. Top 10, Cowboys, Warriors, Rams, Giants, Lakers, Knicks. The 2 baseball teams. You want to guess them?
I'm assuming the Yankees and Dodgers.
That is correct. In that order. Yankees are worth $9.4 billion. Dodgers are worth $9.05 billion. Patriots, Niners is your top 10. In terms of baseball, the San Diego Padres are top 10 in Major League Baseball and most valuable franchises. Yet that's what number are we at of many ways of why this team's not going to leave? 1.5 million. This is 1.6 millionth reason why the Padres never leave. They are the 10th most valuable franchise in all of Major League Baseball, according to Sportico. Take that for what it's worth.
You know what?
They should move them to a city that can't. Yeah, exactly.
If they, if they became the third team in LA, they would be top 5.
Do you know that they're already worth more than the Angels?
If they moved them to Oakland, they would be top 5.
All right. Can you name me the top 10 then? If the Padres are 10, who are the other teams in front of Yankees and Dodgers, and then the third team at $6.65 billion?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to name them in order, but I can probably give them to you.
Yeah, what do you got?
Mets, Phillies, Cubs.
Cubs are 4th at $6.48 billion. Phillies are on there. They are 6th. Mets are 9th.
Really?
Mets are valued at $3.58 billion. Boston is the third highest ranked baseball team in terms of valuation. They come in at $6.65 billion. So Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, Cubs, and then you said the Phillies and the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Padres are 10, Mets are 9, Phillies are 7.
I'm assuming San Francisco's got to get a boost from their ballpark.
Giants are 5. You're missing
7 and
2
8.
teams. One's in the National League at $4.11 billion, and one's in the American League at $3.65 billion.
7 and 8, right?
No, the 6 and 8.
Oh, 6.
Phillies were 7.
What, Cardinals?
Cardinals are actually worth less than the Padres right now by one spot. They're 11, $3.03 billion compared to the $3.1 billion for the Padres.
Possibly Toronto?
No, they're 12. Good guess though. One of them's publicly traded.
That would be the Braves then.
That'd be Atlanta. Atlanta is the 6th most valuable franchise.
I don't think Baltimore would have gotten the bump yet, Nate. I think they'd probably be just outside.
No, Baltimore's worth $1.91 billion.
Yeah.
They're way out of the way.
Seattle keeps coming to my mind, but I don't think that's
Same division though. Houston's worth $3.65 billion according to Sportico. You want to tell me the worst valued franchise in Major League Baseball?
It'd be between a couple, probably between the White Sox.
Nope.
The Rockies.
Nope.
The Marlins.
Yep. Marlins, and then right before them is the Cleveland Guardians. San Diego FC.
I guess the ballpark's too old now. They're not getting the bump there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. San Diego FC is also top 10. So I find it odd. I find it interesting. The Chargers are ranked 21st in valuations in the NFL. The Padres are ranked 10th in Major League Baseball in franchise valuations, and San Diego FC is ranked 10th. 2 top 10 in San Diego. The other one's 21st. Would the value be different if they were still here? I think they'd probably be ranked higher, especially if they own their own building. Jose Miranda trying to make this ball club. We'll talk about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego Sports Station 97 through the Fan. The NHL playoff race is on, and with just a month left in the regular season, every game counts. In the East, Boston, Detroit, and Columbus are fighting for wild card spots. Columbus leads the odds for the Cinderella run with 57% chance to make the second round. Out West, the Utah Mammoth could be the surprise team with a 13% chance to reach the Cup final. Colorado Avalanche dominate the top, but even they aren't immune to a late season shock. Meanwhile, teams like Vancouver and Calgary are eyeing the draft lottery and a potential top pick. Whether it's playoff battles, fantasy picks, or draft dreams, the NHL is starting to heat up. And keep your eyes on these matchups because 1 month from now, the playoff picture could look very different than it does this second. Now, Monday is a big day. NHL is 1 month from the end of the regular season. Fun pop culture tie into this, March 16th, Stone Cold Steve Austin Day, which is today. A nod for fans celebrating NCAA Selection Sunday may have distracted the casual sports fan with bracket picks, but the NHL playoff race is heating up and where you need to be. Let's take a look at the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. The Boston Bruins right now have the first wild card spot. They have a 74.6% chance to make the playoffs as the first wild card spot. Current matchups right now, that you're going to see over the course of this week. They have the Buffalo Sabres, who they are 2-1-0 against. They're 0-1-1 against the Tampa Bay Lightning and 1-1-0 against the Carolina Hurricanes. So that could they could face a tough fight in this division, but their head-to-head records do matter. The Detroit Red Wings right now currently sitting second in the wild card. They have a 34.5% chance. They are struggling against those teams, Carolina, Buffalo, and Tampa Bay. Columbus, an 84.1% chance to make the wild card. They have a strong record against Buffalo and Tampa, but one loss to Carolina so far. They may have the highest odds, the Columbus Blue Jackets, to make the second round at 57% and the Cup final at 12%. Could they be this season's Cinderella team like the Florida Panthers were a couple of years ago?
Yeah, they might, with the way that their odds continue to go up out there in Columbus. Now in the Western Conference, it's the Utah Mammoth that is the wild card one, 93.5% chance, best odds among wild card contenders to advance out west. They have a competitive record against Vegas, Anaheim, and Edmonton, and they have a strong statistical chance as they have a 13% chance to reach the Cup final and a 6.3% chance to win it all. As for the wild card two position, the San Jose Sharks have a mixed record versus the Avalanche, must navigate the Pacific Division juggernauts to be able to claim this particular spot. And in the Central Division, it's the Colorado Avalanche in the C1 spot, dominant with a 97 points on the season, likely the top seed and heavy favorite out west. This is the first wild card in the West, and the first wild card in the West could have an easier path possibly than the East wild cards, as Utah's deep run is a real possibility.
Yeah, the East has been very, very loaded this year in the NHL. The West hasn't been slacking all that far behind, but the East has definitely been a lot more loaded and top heavy this year.
Looking at the upcoming schedule to watch and some NHL trade deadline and fantasy takeaways. In terms of the takeaways from the deadline from a couple of weeks ago, Avalanche dominated, hard to beat, likely to secure the top seed. Eastern contenders definitely whiffed. Trade deadline moves did not reshape balance as much as expected. And the fantasy pickup advice for anybody out there that's playing NHL fantasy hockey: every team has 15 games left. Tracking head-to-head stats could guide you late season fantasy movers. Now, upcoming schedule to watch: Monday, there's a lot of great games.
Yeah, there are a lot of great games here tonight. The Boston Bruins taking on the New Jersey Devils, Detroit Red Wings taking on the Calgary Flames, Seattle Kraken against the Colorado Avalanche, Utah Mammoth against the Dallas Stars, and the Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Colorado Avalanche. That'll be a little bit later on in the week. Important results this week will start to lock playoff seeding and potential matchups. So we are getting very, very close to playoff time, and we are getting very, very close to locking and clinching positions in the postseason.
Yeah, a lot of teams out of playoff contention, as you said, may start planning some rebuilds a little bit earlier than probably they wanted to. So that's your update on the NHL. A lot of games getting ready, and there's nothing like playoff hockey, and it'll be fun to cover in the next couple of weeks. August on the Braden Surprenant Show and on 97.3 The Fan. Join us via the SDCCU fan hotline. It's not big bank banking, it's better. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We're going to get you a full preview of college basketball, region by region, in the next couple of hours or so. But we will want to continue our conversation about Padres baseball here in this particular segment. And when we get to this, I mean, there's a lot of conversations being had around the bench. And Jose Miranda has made a big impact and has forced the conversation to put him on this team. And Jeff Sanders, I'm pretty sure it was Jeff Sanders, if I'm not mistaken, on the article here. Let me pull it back up. Yeah, Jeff Sanders and the UT did a great job outlining a lot of things about Jose Miranda, what he had done so far in his career and what he brings to the table and how he's feeling this is a fresh start. You know, Jose Miranda, once developed by the Minnesota Twins, is fighting for a roster spot in San Diego after choosing a fresh start over organizational loyalty. After being outrighted off the Twins' 40-man roster and declining a AAA assignment, Miranda hit a crossroads in his career, and rather than stay in a system that no longer viewed him as part of its future, he bet on himself. And the Padres are now benefiting from that decision if they decide to keep him on the team. But this spring, Jose Miranda has been one of the most productive hitters in camp, hitting .342 with a .405 on base and a .605 slug. He has 6 extra base hits. He has 9 RBIs in 17 games. His surge isn't accidental after disastrous 2025 season where he hit just with a .417 OPS in the majors and a .569 OPS in AAA. Miranda returned to Puerto Rico and made key mechanical changes. Switched from the leg kick to the toe tap, move his hands back in his load, focused on a more direct swing path, and the results so far have been more consistent contact and renewed power. Craig Stammen has taken notice about this, and more importantly, is emphasizing something the Padres may be lacking on their bench, which is firepower. Not just home runs, but power threats, defensive versatility, situational matchup value. Miranda checks multiple boxes for the San Diego Padres. He can play first base, and he can play third base. He's a right-handed bat, which is valuable versus lefty relievers, and has shown legit pop this spring. However, the big question is, how does he get on the roster? The path to the roster is anything but simple. Padres have created their own competition problem, which is a good problem to have. But you have Nick Castellanos, who's battling for a bench spot and some platoon time. He's a 2-time All-Star, expected to get every chance to rebound here in San Diego. The biggest competition, in my opinion, is Ty France, who was a former All-Star. He was a Gold Glover last year. He got at-bats in the World Series last year. And he's battling for a spot. And he's got an opt-out looming. He could always opt out of this particular contract. There's other variables, too. The health of Sungmin Song, obviously, with his oblique. Manny Machado's coming back now for the WBC. He's going to take a lot more reps to get ramped up for the regular season. There are limited bench spots available for a guy like Jose Miranda. And contractually, Miranda has more patience built in. He has opt-outs on June 1st and August 1st. If he doesn't make the roster, he'll get everyday at-bats at AAA El Paso, which gives the Padres flexibility, but also raises a key question. Are they risking losing a hot bat if they don't act now and put him on the team? Because right now, Miranda's doing exactly what a fringe player needs to do. He's producing, he's adjusting, and he's forcing uncomfortable decisions. And in a camp full of big names and pitching battles, he may be the one creating the more and the most pressure internally. But the biggest news I think out of this article, Frank, is the fact that Jose Miranda cannot opt out of his contract until June 1st and August 1st, which gives the Padres a little bit of time, which I don't think is necessarily great for a guy like Jose Miranda trying to make the team on the opening day roster. But I do think it's better for the Padres. They can push this out and kind of wait for an injury or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Miranda, that's why you put those clauses in your contract. When you have a good spring like this and you're expecting to hit the way that he is, that's a big thing to be able to get out of a contract like that instead of just rotting in the minor leagues for a season on a competitive team, especially when there are a couple of guys ahead of you. Like you would say Sungmin Song is ahead of you. Ty France has played to the point where now he is ahead of you. So, yeah, he is waiting on injuries at this point, and I think it is more of an extended tryout for Jose Miranda. It kind of reminds me of what Luke Voit went through a couple of years ago, not with the Padres, but he was bouncing from minor league to minor league because teams wanted him, didn't want to give him up, but they didn't have necessarily any room for him at the major league level. So it's an unfortunate situation for him that he's waiting for an injury to happen effectively, but good on the Padres for being able to lock him up and have some security with him, at least for the first couple months of the season.
I look at this as the Jose Iglesias situation, not last year, but 2 years ago. Before he became a Met, Jose Iglesias was part of the Padres organization. He'd signed the same kind of deal, and he had 2 opt-outs. He used the opt-out the first time and then came back and then had to use the opt-out a second time. And I was always wondering what was taking so long to potentially bring up Jose Iglesias. The guy was hitting over 300 down in the minor leagues, and he was coming off a 280 season in Colorado. And I thought for sure he would get pulled up, and he never did. But for a guy like Jose Miranda, I mean, with injuries and everything that plays out beginning part of the season, as of right now, I would imagine he's probably the first guy to get called if there's any type of problem with the major league roster in terms of bench piece. And the other thing, too, you keep Ty France now, and if Ty France does not hit in the first couple of weeks or really a month, you could add Jose Miranda after that, and then Ty France is gone. So the competition's there. I mean, obviously, Jose Miranda's playing well enough to try to make this team outright, but the fact that they could keep him as a depth option, I knew he had an opt-out somewhere because of where he is veteran status-wise. I just didn't realize it was not until June. So that's a huge plus for the Padres right now when they're trying to settle everything. And then they got to figure out what's going on with Sungmoon Song, which in our conversation with Sam Levitt, it sounds like he's getting better and his health is progressing, but now they got to build him up in terms of at-bats and stuff. He's not going to be on this opening day roster. So now it's Jose Miranda, it's Ty France, it's Bryce Johnson battling for 2 spots, mixed with the Mason McCoy, right? Will Wagner was, I think, a little beat up, so he's probably not going to make it. I mean, this roster's starting to solidify before our eyes. In the next couple of days, we're going to know a lot more. But I think the competition has worked great for the Padres because they have gotten everything out of it that they wanted to get out of it, and it wasn't like, oh, injuries happen, so we have to take this guy, or these 3 players are all terrible during spring, so we have to take this guy. He's the best of our options. You are actually getting the best competition out of both the position players battling for a bench piece, the starting pitchers battling for a rotation spot, and even the bullpen arms battling for a chance to be in this Padres bullpen. You couldn't have asked for a better spring training for the Padres in terms of competition.
It has been absolutely perfect. Everything you could have hoped for. And I think that's the biggest one is since someone's not going to make this team by default because someone else got hurt. That I think is the biggest part.
Talked about the Padres. We're going to talk about college basketball in just a little bit, but it's time to talk about what else is going on in the sports world with today's Sports Thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, Frank, what we got going on today in the sports world?
We've got a couple of stories coming from the NFL.
Number 1.
We'll start off with the NFL Players Association, which we had discussed yesterday, has elected its new executive director, and that would be former player and union insider J.C. Tretter, marking a pivotal leadership decision during a turbulent stretch for the union. Tretter, a former Cleveland Browns lineman, and past NFLPA president, takes over following the scandal-driven exit of Lloyd Howell Jr. He now steps into a critical role ahead of looming negotiations with the NFL on major issues such as an 18-game season, expanded international play, and working opposite Commissioner Roger Goodell. While Tretter is respected for his player-first approach, his track record includes some controversial moments tied to collective bargaining violations, adding intrigue to how he will guide the union going forward. Is J.C. Treader the steady player-first leader the NFLPA needs, or is it a risky choice given his track record?
I think every choice is going to be a potentially risky choice, but it's about time that they got that figured out with the Players Association. How about all these Players Associations, man? They got a lot of drama going around.
I know, right?
How do they figure out their own problems?
Independent arbiter. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
You got used to doing that.
Number 2.
Max Crosby reveals that he was livid and confused after a blockbuster trade from the Raiders to the Ravens fell apart at the last minute over medical concerns tied to his surgically repaired knee. Crosby said the experience was a whirlwind from being flown out for a physical to suddenly being sent back to Las Vegas after the Ravens backed out despite earlier optimism. Baltimore Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta reportedly had concerns after the exam, and the team quickly pivoted to signing Trey Hendrickson instead. Despite the chaos, Crosby said he is recommitted to the Raiders and plans to use the situation as motivation heading into the season. Did the Ravens make the smart long-term move backing out over medical risk, or did they pass on a game changer and hand the Raiders a motivated superstar?
Well, I think they definitely handed the Raiders a motivated superstar. I just don't know what the relationship is now with him and the Raiders. I mean, he could say everything he wants, but like they had a bad falling out, and then the Raiders traded him, and then he has to come back now because everybody else already made the moves. So that's kind of an awkward reunion, if you will, at that point in time. So from that perspective, as long as like everything's, as long as it's like, hey, we're cool, right?
Yeah.
Like we're totally cool, right?
Who left? It wasn't me.
Yeah, right. We're cool, right? We're cool. No hard feelings that we tried to trade you and
we good,
and we didn't really want you here anymore. And now we're a little upset that we didn't get our picks, but we okay? We good with that? He figures that out that maybe they will, but it's still the Raiders doing Raider things, dude. It's just. This couldn't happen to anybody but the Raiders.
Number 3.
The NCAA has rejected a request from the Big Ten Conference to pause investigations into alleged tampering in college athletics, saying enforcement will continue under the current rules. The Big Ten argued the rules were created before today's NIL-driven landscape and massive transfer portal movement, making them nearly impossible to enforce fairly. However, other power conferences pushed back, including the Big 12 and ACC, saying that enforcement is necessary to prevent what Dabo Swinney called a, quote, broken system, where schools openly recruit players still under contract at other programs. In the era of NIL deals and consistent transfer portal movements, is tampering even realistically enforceable anymore, or should colleges just accept that it's a part of the new landscape?
No, they got to fix this problem because this is not something that they allow in professional sports. So why should they allow this in college sports that are now becoming professional sports? This is something they got to put rules in for. But until they get the exemption of being an antitrust, unless they get the antitrust exemption, they can't enforce any of their rules, which in lies the problem. But yes, they got to get that fixed first, and then they got to start putting in rules of how you can build rosters in college athletics because it's gotten so out of control.
And again, the Big Ten's thing was we're living by outdated rules. Let's get rid of these and update to new ones that correctly mark what is going on. And the other conferences said, no, we're fine with the rules that are the way they are. So
we good.
It's not like they were trying to get rid of the safeguards. They were trying to get updated ones.
Number 4.
For the future. The Toronto Maple Leafs are furious with the NHL after Radko Gudas of the Anaheim Ducks received only a 5-game suspension for a knee-on-knee hit that ended Austin Matthews' season. Matthews suffered a grade 3 MCL tear and quad contusion, forcing the Leafs captain out for the rest of the year, while teammates and coaches argued that the punishment did not match the impact, especially given Gudas' history of prior suspensions. The controversy has reignited league-wide debate about whether the NHL's Department of Player Safety does enough to protect star players. If a hit ends a superstar's season, Should the NHL hand out suspensions based on the results of the play or the intent of the action?
It should be on the intent and the results of the play. I shouldn't be based on like what his injury was. It needs to be on the situation that happened in the game. That's how the suspension should work. Just because the guy ends up being out for the whole year, which is BS, doesn't mean that's like, all right, well, that's automatically what the suspension is. When we come back in the noon lunchtime hour, NCAA tournament talk.
San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the gas lamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime years.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
New lunchtime hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by the Craft Taco. Bold flavors, 2 locations, Sorrento Valley and inside Balboa Park's Natural History Museum. In this hour, JR Blount will come on to join us at 12:35. He is the new head basketball coach at the University of San Diego. He is currently the assistant basketball coach at Iowa State, and they're going to be getting ready for an NCAA tournament game here coming up over the next couple of days. Iowa State drew a spot in the Midwest region. Midwest region. They're going to take on Tennessee State. They're playing Friday at 11:50 in the morning. So that is if you're a USD fan, you want to keep dialing in. I mean, I've seen the social media posts between USD and Iowa State. Been pretty fun to watch. So we're going to have JR Blount on at the end of this hour. But in this hour, in this new lunchtime hour on the Braden Surprenant Show, we're going to help you fill out your bracket. We're going to do a couple of regions in this hour. We're going to do a couple of regions in the 1 o'clock hour. We're going to talk about San Diego FC in the 1 o'clock hour as well. They got a big game tonight as they're down in Toluca to take on Toluca FC, and they're going to be in the second leg of this particular series, if you will. And the winner is going to be able to advance. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. I mean, San Diego FC basically needs to win, and they advance, right? A draw too, or no?
No, because
they have the Toluca's got the
away
deal.
goals advantage.
Well, if
it's a 0-0 draw, then yes, San Diego FC wins, but then San Diego advances. But
what if it's a 1-1 draw? If
it's 2-1 on away goals. Oh well,
no, because then San Diego FC would have an away goal. So I think win or draw, they win or draw, they advance.
Yes.
And
Lose,
if they
out.
lose, there's no way that they can lose and advance.
Math is cool.
Yeah. So they're it's win or draw, right? So it's a little bit different. But that's games tonight. We'll get you a preview of that in the 1 o'clock hour as well. All right. We do want to get to, we'll start with the East region because that's where the number 1 seed, the Duke Blue Devils, are. And we'll try to get through this. Try to help you fill out your bracket, obviously. So in this bracket, the number 1 is Duke, 16 is Siena. They're paired with the number 8 seed, Ohio State, and the 9 TCU, the 5-12, which is here in San Diego. And we're going to talk about some of the teams playing in San Diego tomorrow, since they will not be in action until Friday. They're going to have their practices tomorrow. I'm sure a lot of them have already started flying into San Diego's airport. But St. John's got the 5 seed. They're taking on Northern Iowa. That game will be on Friday at 4:10 Pacific time. Kansas, the 4 seed, takes on California Baptist, the 13. Also here in San Diego, that will be at 6:45 on Friday. Other games in the East region, the 6 seed, Louisville, they'll take on the 11 seed South Florida. The 3 seed Michigan State will take on the 14 seed North Dakota State. 7 seed UCLA is going to take on the 10 seed UCF, and the 2 seed UConn is going to take on the 15 seed Furman. And when you look at this, the identity of this region, it is physicality versus consistency. You've got elite teams like Duke and UConn, but also flawed contenders like Kansas and St. John's, which is interesting because they could match up against each other in the second round on Sunday here in San Diego. And of course, the similar players that they have shared over the last couple of years. But a ton of upset potential in the 6-11 and 7 in the 6-11 and 7-10 matchups in this particular region. And I would not go chalk with this region. This is where you can really win your NCAA tournament pool is in the East region. Now, let's talk about the big contenders. Like Duke, the number 1 seed, they get the number 1 eye test, number 2 resume in the NCAA tournament. Defensive efficiency is number 1 in the country. Defense travels in March. Elite defense travels in March. They're top 4 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. And they have the best player in the region, if not one of the best players in the tournament on their team. That's why they're number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They have proven versus contenders. They got wins over Michigan and Florida this year. But why they won't win or advance all the way to the Final Four is they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Like Duke is dealing with multiple injuries that could affect them in the middle rounds of this tournament. Foster's out. Ngaba's out. They got a lack of depth. So if they get into foul trouble, they're going to be in danger in some of these games. It's not going to be a loss to Siena, but Ohio State or TCU coming out of power conferences could potentially snipe Duke. St. John's in Kansas could potentially snipe Duke in the Sweet 16. Of course, a matchup between Duke and Tom Izzo with Michigan State in the Elite 8 could be dangerous for Duke, and UConn against Duke could also be dangerous. So Duke is a safe pick early, but they're a very vulnerable pick late. As for UConn, the number 2 seed, as we look at the bracket here on StreamYard for everybody watching on YouTube. But UConn's near the bottom. So, Frank, if you could scroll down just a slight bit, that's the only part you can't see is UConn and Furman. UConn is the number 2 seed in this particular region. Eye test grade, according to Joe Lenardi, is number 9 in the country. The resume 6th. Defensive are in the tournament. Defensive efficiency dropped from number 2 to 29 in the last 6 weeks. We talked about it with Duke. Defense travels in March, but UConn's defense is starting to fall apart. Their three-point shooting has dropped from 36% to 33%. They do have an elite system over Dan Hurley. They got interior dominance with Terrace Reed Jr. Experience does matter in March. They have a lot of experience. They've won multiple national championships with a lot of guys on this team, but they turn the ball over a lot. They have 15-plus turnovers and key losses. They get cold shooting a lot. They collapse on the offensive side. And, they're not the same UConn you have seen in the NCAA tournament. Like, to me, UConn's a team that is a second weekend ceiling type team. I don't think they have what it takes to really advance. I think the Sweet 16 is probably the furthest they'd go. Maybe they can get out of the Elite 8, get to the Elite 8 if they have a good game against Michigan State or maybe Louisville. But UConn is a team that's I wouldn't pick them to go to the Final Four. Michigan State, the 3 seed. Joe Lenardi's got their eye test as an 11. The resume is an 8. Best teams, in the tournament. They're 140th in three-point shooting. Not a big three-point shooting team. They got elite pace. They got good rebounding. Tom Izzo is always done well in March. It's very rare that they do not have a good start to the year. They're physical. They're disciplined. They're balanced. They have elite point guard play. You need good guard play in the NCAA tournament. Jeremy Fears Jr. is that guard for Michigan State. But why they won't advance, they can't shoot. And teams collapse the paint against Michigan State. And if Michigan State gets to a portion or faces the opponent where they got to make shots, they're not going to be able to do that. And they commit a lot of turnovers from fast pace. I mean, if you push it against Michigan State and you make them play a fast-paced game, it doesn't usually end well for the Spartans. They are a sleeper Final Four team if you want to lay a Final Four team out there because of Izzo, because of the great guard play, the fact that they're physical and disciplined. The three-point shooting might turn them in a little bit, but they can win without the three-point shooting. I like Michigan State more than I like UConn if you wanted to pick a non-Duke out of this particular region. Kansas, the 4 seed. I've watched Kansas play a lot this year. They're very inconsistent when they don't have their stars in. And, they got superstar talent like Darren Peterson. They got elite rim protection on the team. Their eye test, according to Joe Lenardi, is 21 in the bracket. Their resume is 14. But they got a lot of chemistry issues, Kansas does. They have 5 losses in the last 6 tournaments, early rounds. This is not a great Kansas team. I don't really trust them. So I wouldn't really have I honestly don't think Kansas is going to get out of San Diego. If they run into St. John's has played a lot better basketball. In fact, I think St. John's has been I think they got hosed in the 5 seed because they should have a lot higher of a seeding. I think St. John's wins the region over here in San Diego and advance past Kansas. Kansas is probably the biggest team on upset alert, but you have to remember last year in the NCAA tournament, only 7 first-round upsets, and that's including 9s over 8 seeds and 10s over 7s. The difference between top teams in college basketball and mid-majors have the gap has grown. When you have Power 4 schools playing against other Power 4 schools, you could see the upset. It's going to be tough for California Baptist upset Kansas, but if you want to go with one, this is kind of the area I think you could probably get away with it. But I still think Kansas is probably better, good enough to beat California Baptist. They're just going to run into a problem with St. John's. And speaking of St. John's, they are a really good basketball team that's been playing really good late, but they got poor three-point shooting, which is a major red flag. They do have the elite defense, and they have the physicality. The eye test Joe Lenardi gives them is 18 in the bracket, but if the opponent shoots that day, St. John's is in trouble. And if the game is ugly, they win. So if Northern Iowa can shoot and Cal Baptist can shoot or Kansas can shoot or anybody in that region can shoot, St. John's gets in a little bit of a world of hurt because they can't hang with the three-point shooting. But when it's physical in the paint, St. John's usually does really well. St. John's is a team that is a little sneaky, I think, in this NCAA tournament. Louisville, the 6th seed, 4 double-digit scorers. They depend heavily on Michael Brown Jr. And his health. They are on upset alert against South Florida, who has had a pretty good year. And South Florida, even though they got in by winning the American Conference, they were close to being an at-large team anyway. This is not they just got hot in a weekend. I mean, South Florida's been a pretty solid basketball team, and they're listed as a Cinderella watch in this particular bracket. They're top 10 in offensive rebounding. They have 18 double-doubles from Isaiah Nelson. They are weak from the three-point line, but if they win, it's got to be because they dominate the glass and they turn it into a chaos game. And I think that they could potentially beat Louisville. If you're looking for a really, an upset pick in the first round, South Florida over Louisville, I think is where you want to go. UCLA is the 7th seed. 5 players are averaging 11 plus points per game. Weak defense, though, and rebounding. Very high variance team. They're boom or early exit with Mick Cronin's crew. And I can't wait for that press conference when that happens. That's always going to be a treat. Plus, they're playing UCF. UCF came from a very difficult Big 12 conference this year. Big 12 teams are definitely battle tested, but we'll see what happens when the pressure is on. Northern Iowa, 12 seed, number 1 in scoring defense, 61.3 points per game allowed, elite at controlling tempo. If they win, it's because they slow the game down and they play a half-court grind. They might be able to do that a little bit with St. John's, but the problem is St. John's is a lot more physical than a lot of teams that Northern Iowa has played. St. John's physicality is probably going to knock out Northern Iowa down, and they're going to have to shoot because they're not going to be able to hang with the physicality of St. John's unless they make outside shots. They make outside shots. St. John's is in a little bit of an upset mode, but I wouldn't really rely on that. In terms of first-round games, Duke's going to beat Siena. I don't think you need to really worry about that game. That game's going to be on CBS. Ohio State, TCU. This is a 50-50 game. You got star power for the Buckeyes. You got balance out of TCU. TCU has had a really good season. It's a coin flip game. It's the first game of the tournament. They always like to make the coin flip game the first game of the tournament to really wipe out half the field when it comes to the NCAA bracket picks. But I got to go with the Horned Frogs just because it's my alma mater, but I'll probably pick them in one bracket and not pick them in another. They've been good, but they're very inconsistent. TCU does really well against good teams, is really poor against bad teams. St. John's, Northern Iowa, again, the clash of styles, defense versus physicality. I like St. John's in this one. I still like Kansas in their size. I think it's too much for Cal Baptist. I'll take Kansas. Louisville, South Florida. I think this is your best upset pick in round 1. So I'd go with South Florida in this game. Michigan State, North Dakota State, Izzo and March. Give me Michigan State. UCLA, UCF. I think this one's a little bit of a toss-up. I'm going to go with the Big 12 Conference in this one. A little bit more difficult to schedule. Plus, UCLA's got to fly to Philly. It's a lot closer for UCF than it is for UCLA. I'll take UCF in an upset. And then too much size for UConn over Furman. I'm going to take UConn. Sweet 16 picks. I think, I do think TCU's got a chance against Duke. I think TCU's got a better chance against Duke than they do against Ohio State, just the way they've played this season. Plus, TCU has played 3 of the 4 number 1 seeds already. Duke's the only team that they haven't played yet that's a number 1 seed. They lost to Arizona by 10. They lost to Michigan by 4, and they beat Florida here in San Diego. So something to look for. But Sweet 16 picks, I think you're safe with 1 seed Duke, 5 seed St. John's, 3 seed Michigan State, 2 seed UConn. The thing is, when you fill out your bracket, you got to get the Final Four and National Championship right. And so it's almost like that's where you want to start. You want to start in the middle and then work your way back out, because you can't really have a lot of upsets advancing too far. I mean, it happens every once in a while, but it's happening less and less and less now. And so, yes, you might get them in the first round, but upsets happen early and then don't happen late. The favorites usually win out after they make it through the first couple of rounds. So I like Duke, St. John's, Michigan State, UConn as of right now. Elite 8, look for Duke and Michigan State. If you want to look for an upset special, I think maybe Michigan State might be able to get out of that region with Tom Izzo and March and the way that they play and the way that they might be able to overwhelm Duke a little bit with the injuries that they have. So, Michigan State's the best combination of coaching and guard play. Toughness travels the NCAA tournament. Duke's depth concerns, I think, are going to catch up to them while you can't pick them out of this region. But I like Michigan State. Duke is the safest pick, but not the smartest pick for the East region. Michigan State is definitely the best value Final Four team in this region. South Florida might be your bracket-winning upset in the first round. UConn is overrated based on past success. This is not the same UConn team that you saw play San Diego State in the national championship game. It's not the same UConn team, that has won back-to-back national championships. So I think they eventually will get gassed out before they get to the Final Four. But this is the region to me that will bust brackets more than any other region that you could get to. So that's a look at our East preview. When we come back, we'll talk about the West a little bit, and then we're going to kind of pivot away from that. We're going to talk with JR Blount later in the 12:35 spot of this hour. We'll get back to this to finish up the show in the 1 o'clock hour when we break down the South and the Midwest, trying to help you guys fill out the brackets. We got more games tonight in the first 4. We got 2 more games, and then tomorrow morning in the 9 a.m. hour, TCU and Ohio State will tip off, and the NCAA tournament will start. You got anything you want to add to the East region, Frank?
Oh, you said it all.
Got it covered.
You're good.
Who's your pick? Are you filling out a bracket?
I am going to fill out a bracket, yes.
You got to fill out a bracket.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
Here's the deal. Anybody driving around, I don't know college basketball. I don't know. I don't really watch this, that, and the other. Just fill out a bracket. It's fun.
Never stopped me from filling out a bracket before.
Fill out a bracket. It's fun. It's for fun. And honestly, the people that don't know what's going on usually do very well in brackets. Pick it however you want. We're just trying to help you fill it out, try to win your bracket pool. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Or you can take Augie in the YouTube chat's approach. Just pick logos or mascots. We should put up that mascot graphic I sent you. Pick it based on those mascots. See how it does.
Yeah, that is a good one.
When we come back, we'll talk about the West region and the Arizona Wildcats. It's probably their region to lose. We'll explain more. San Diego High School sports had a huge week, and one story grabbed national attention. Cathedral Catholic star Honor Falave Johnson announced his college commitment in style. The 5-star recruit hosted a full commitment party in downtown San Diego with about 125 people in attendance, complete with a DJ, food, and a live broadcast. When it came time to reveal his decision, he grabbed an Oregon hat, tossed it aside, then pulled out a sword and put on a USC Trojans hat. The crowd erupted. Falave Johnson rushed for more than 1,200 yards last season and averaged nearly 10 yards per carry while helping Cathedral Catholic reach the state championship game. He'll likely play safety at USC, but the Trojans are also considering offensive packages for the explosive playmaker. The scary part, San Diego fans still get one more season of him at Cathedral Catholic before he heads to college football, since he is only going to be a senior in the fall. San Diego High School sports delivered another packed week, and there are storylines popping up all over the country, from new football coaching challenge in East County to a massive college commitment announcement, the strong early season showings in baseball and track. And let's start on the football side, where Sid Reed is taking over the program at El Cajon Valley, and he's inheriting one of the toughest rebuilds in the county.
Yeah, absolutely. Reed has had solid success at San Diego High, reaching the CIF semifinals in the last 2 seasons. But his new job is a completely different challenge. El Cajon Valley hasn't had a winning season in 20 years and went 2-8 last year. Reed says he's focused on bringing structure, leadership, and a family atmosphere to the program. And sometimes it's exactly what struggling programs need, not just wins, but culture. And if he can turn that program around even slightly, it could become one of the best turnaround stories in San Diego high school football next year.
It's going to be difficult. I mean, they're trying to do what Jason Texler did way back in the day when they had El Cajon Valley win like 12 games, 12 wins for El Cajon Valley that year. They have been really a struggling program for a long period of time now. But major college commitment, of course, one of the biggest recruiting announcements in the country happened this week is Cathedral Catholic star Honor Falave Johnson committed to USC. And the way he did it was obviously memorable. Full commitment party, hats from 6 powerhouse programs on the table, and then a dramatic reveal with the USC sword before putting on the Trojans hat. Falave Johnson was last season's CIF San Diego Section Offensive Player of the Year, rushing for more than 1,200 yards and nearly 10 yards per carry. He'll likely play safety at USC, but could see offensive packages as well. And Cathedral Catholic fans will get one more season to watch him before he heads to the Pac-12 powerhouse USC, which is now the Big Ten powerhouse in the USC Trojans. But that old school pipeline between San Diego running backs, San Diego players, and USC continues with Honor Falave Johnson.
Yeah, and congratulations to him getting the full party. I got to see him last year against, who was it at Southwestern?
Carlsbad.
That was Carlsbad. He really is a special player and a player that your eye is always drawn to whenever he is on the field. So very much big time congratulations to Honor Falave Johnson and his family.
On the diamond, speaking of Cathedral Catholic, the Dons look like the early team to beat in San Diego. They took down Granite Hills, who is ranked number 2 in the county, 12-3 on a run rule in what was essentially the Hilltop Lolitas Tournament Championship game. Lineup pounded out 16 hits, and the pitching staff had shut down innings late. Even more impressive, the team has 10 players already committed to 4-year colleges, including schools like Princeton, Stanford, Arizona State, and UCSD. That's the kind of depth that wins championships.
Yeah, I wonder who wrote this update today. It was actually me.
It wasn't me at all.
I put the update together. But yeah, another strong start for another Cathedral Catholic program and a great opening to a baseball season.
Yeah, I watched them play against San Marcos the other day. They looked pretty good. A lot of fundamental things that they got to clean up a little bit, but it was fun to watch Shohei Darvish pitch for Cathedral Catholic. He has really upped his velo. He is one of the commitments that is going to UCSD. But what's going on in track?
Track season is also heating up with El Capitan hurdler Spencer Chastang is emerging as one of the athletes to watch. He swept both hurdle events and the Don Jones Invitation at the Don Jones Invitational, and is now chasing school records in both the 110 hurdles and the 300 hurdles. He's also hoping to reach the state meet this year after narrowly missing out last year. So a big weekend for Spencer out of El Cap.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you see that national attention for San Diego athletes. We're seeing it more and more. Obviously, it starts with this week with Honor Falave Johnson being on the front page of ESPN.com for his commitment. That was obviously huge. But you start looking at all the athletes that you see, not only in professional sports but college sports, between nationally televised commitments, major recruiting attention, elite athletes chasing state titles. Spotlight on San Diego talent's getting bigger every year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to see. I mean, it's becoming a pipeline, not just for football, but for other sports as well throughout the landscape. So very, very big for San Diego to have so much young talent here that you guys can go out and watch for relatively cheap before it becomes a lot more expensive to be able to go out and see them.
San Diego, and he's getting Iowa State ready to go for their NCAA tournament game against Tennessee State. That's coming up on Friday. We'll get to JR when we come back, but right now we want to break down, speaking of the NCAA tournament, we just broke down the Midwest. The East. We're going to break down the West. And as I look at the West region, I look at the fact that the Arizona Wildcats are the favorite to win this region. Arizona's really good. Arizona is arguably the best team in the country, mixed with Duke, mixed with Michigan. I know they lost a couple of games in the Big 12, but they're right there with Duke and Michigan as the best teams in the country. They already beat Florida this year. The Arizona Wildcats have elite size. They have depth. They have freshman firepower. Koa Pete, Burries. I mean, they got Braden Burries, veteran leader, and Jaden Bradley. They've dominated most of the season. And this year feels like the year for Arizona. But Arizona has been burned before in March. They've burned people before in March. I think of, the time that Arizona lost to Steve Nash in Santa Clara. Thought about the time that they lost to Yale. I mean, Arizona's been highly ranked and gotten 1 and 2 seeds and have been burned in the NCAA tournament before. This is the best chance they have at winning a national championship since Mike Bibby was on the team and won them a national championship in the 90s. It's the best team they've had. Now, their biggest threat is Purdue. Best pure point guard in the country, Braden Smith, offensive machine. They average 82 points per game. Their defense can absolutely collapse, though, which is a major problem for Purdue. But they got a high ceiling and an early exit risk. If they make it through the first 2 rounds, Purdue could be a threat to Arizona. Gonzaga is a dangerous 3 seed. Insane tournament consistency. Sweet 16 machine. Gonzaga makes the Sweet 16. They are older. They have an experienced roster. But Braden Huff and his injury is a huge swing factor to whether or not Gonzaga is going to go to the Sweet 16 or not. If they're healthy, they're a contender to make it out of the West region. If Braden Huff does not play, Gonzaga might not continue the streak of making the Sweet 16. So they got a very capped ceiling if Braden Huff doesn't play. He hasn't played in a long time. Arkansas, very much a boomer bust team in this bracket. They're led by superstar freshman Darius Acuff Jr., one of the best offenses in the country of the Arkansas Razorback. Now, they have weak interior defense, which is a major flaw, but they could make a Final Four or lose early, which is very, very boomer bust. I mean, what Arkansas team are you going to get? In terms of an upset watch, best first-round upset picks, Missouri potentially over Miami. Missouri's playing near home in St. Louis. They're inconsistent, but they're dangerous. Played a tough SEC. The other one's Texas over BYU. BYU lost a key player. It's not the same team that they were. They have really struggled down the stretch in Big 12 play, and Texas has size, experience. Oh, and by the way, they just played a game already. So they've already gotten that NCAA tournament jitters out of the system, and Sean Miller's a great coach. So Texas over BYU could be an upset in the first round. Now, a sneaky chaos team. We've seen them a lot. Utah State, they're experienced. They got an efficient offense. They could beat Villanova, and they could give Arizona a scare for a half. A key matchup to watch, though, potentially Arizona and Arkansas in the Sweet 16. Koa Pete versus Darius Acuff Jr. Size for shot creation. Depth for star power. This is the real regional final in a lot of ways, Arizona and Arkansas. Now, in terms of the projected path, Final Four pick to you is Arizona. Why? They're the best combination of talent and size, multiple scoring options, and can survive different play styles. But if you want to win your bracket, don't just follow chalk in this bracket. Consider high-risk winning pick, Arkansas maybe to the Final Four. Be smart, contrarian. Purdue loses early. The defense collapses. I mean, that might be a smart move for you. And then the safe but not boring bet is Arizona and Arkansas, with Arizona winning in that particular part of the tournament. But, my West region summary, your most likely winner is Arizona. Your best upset team chance is probably Missouri, although I think Texas can make a little bit of a run. Most dangerous wild card in this bracket is Arkansas, and the potential bust in this side of the region is Purdue. That's how I view this part of the bracket in the West region. Again, Arizona is playing here in San Diego, which is usually a big Arizona crowd. It'll be Arizona and Long Island on Friday at 10:35 in the morning. Villanova and Utah State will play right after them at Viejas Arena, and the winner of those games will play on Sunday at a time to be determined. But that's the other part of the San Diego region. Now, Wisconsin's had a pretty good year this year. They've been hot as of late. High Point's a scary team. My guy Trav Gundy in the chat, you better watch out for the High Point Panthers, man. They might be able to surprise some people. High Point's got a player on their team that's better at shooting threes than he is at making twos. Guy's made more threes this season than any other shot. In fact, I think he's 0 for 4 from anything inside the arc, and then he's like whatever his shooting percentage is from beyond the arc. So we got to get to break. When we come back, JR Blount's going to join us on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Toreros Sports Station 97 through the Fan. We got big news in the NBA. The league is moving toward expansion for the first time in nearly 20 years. Seattle is back, bringing the Supersonics franchise home after 2 decades, and Las Vegas finally gets its own team, building on its booming summer league and pro sports scene. Expansion fees could hit $7 to $10 billion per team, meaning current owners could each receive around $500 million in addition to what they usually get from just the deal. Seattle and Las Vegas would join the Western Conference, forcing one team, likely the Minnesota Timberwolves, to move east to balance the schedule. Expansion drafts, salary caps, and draft positioning will give new teams a fair shot without handing them an unfair advantage. Meanwhile, the New York Knicks are climbing the ranking with the league's best defense. Denver is struggling, and Minnesota is on fire with Anthony Edwards. The big question, though, will expansion reshape the NBA hierarchy before these new teams even play, or will the current powerhouses hold their ground? The NBA making headlines this week, and it's not just about playoff races. Expansion officially back on the table.
Yeah, according to ESPN's
Shams Sharana.
Thank you. The Board of Governors will vote next week to explore adding Seattle and Las Vegas as franchises in the NBA for the 2028-2029 season. So it's still a couple years away, a move that could reshape the league in profound ways. Seattle returns nearly 20 years after losing the Supersonics to Oklahoma City, while Vegas, already in the league's unofficial 21st city, thanks to the booming summer league and pro sports presence, finally gets an NBA team. Economically, it makes sense for owners. Expansion fees could hit $7 to $10 billion. It's billion with a B per team, which could mean roughly $500 million per current owner. I would call that incentive, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a massive incentive. Now, while the vote next week isn't binding, insiders expect expansion to be a near certainty, with a formal approval likely coming at the July Board of Governors meeting during the Las Vegas Summer League. Players won't have a say in the process, but they'll likely welcome the extra roster spots. If the 2 new Western Conference teams are added, one existing team will have to move east to balance the 17-15 split. Minnesota is the most likely candidate given its geography and broadcasting live for the Bill House Studios. We know how. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego Toreros Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. We have a special guest here at 12:35 today, joining us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. It's not Big Bank Banking. It's better. Is the brand new men's basketball head coach for the University of San Diego in JR Blount. Now, JR is getting ready. He is an assistant coach right now at Iowa State. He is getting ready for an NCAA tournament game on Friday against Tennessee State, representing the Iowa State Cyclones in the Big 12 Conference. Looking forward to watching that. Spent a long time coaching at Colorado State, so he's got some West Coast roots. Played at Loyola of Chicago, a great young basketball mind, and we're blessed to have a couple of minutes with him before, obviously, he's getting prepped for Iowa State's basketball game on Friday. But to introduce to all of you in San Diego, the new head coach of the University of San Diego. JR, what's going on, man? How's your Wednesday going?
How we doing, man? Thank you guys for having me. Wednesday is going great. Just got to St. Louis here, and a little bit of sun, not as much as San Diego, not what I'm looking forward to getting down there, but it's been good.
That's great to hear. And now, Coach, I mean, it's beautiful out here right now. It's a little hot. It's a little bit hotter than it usually is in March.
I'll
But
take it.
we'll get you lined up and ready to go for San Diego when you come out here. But hopefully that's at the end of the first week of April, because you guys are hosting the trophy. But you're coming off a stretch, Coach, at Iowa State with the men's basketball program, where guys have made the tournament every year as you prepare for a matchup on Friday and another matchup in March. What stands out about how that program gets ready for this moment and what you are taking from Iowa State that you're going to build into USD?
No, definitely. I think one of the biggest things and one of the key things that we'll bring to USD is our daily habits here are the same day after day. And I think that really resonates and it translates into winning. And that's what we've done for the 5 years that we've been here. So to look at practice today, it looks just like practice looked 4 years ago when we were first getting there. And I think that's key. It's a relentlessly consistent way to approach things. And I think that it helps the guys. It allows the guys to know that every day matters, that every detail matters. And, ultimately that ends up in winning a lot of games.
We're talking with new head basketball coach at the University of San Diego, JR Blount, who is currently an Iowa State assistant coach, finishing out the season before heading out here to the University of San Diego. And now that you're stepping into San Diego Toreros men's basketball, how are you balancing evaluating that current roster, building for the next season, and obviously still installing the culture you want the right way as you are out there at Iowa State?
Definitely. I think the biggest things that come to mind are, I had a Zoom with the guys that are currently there, and then continue to build those relationships over time. Obviously, I love to be there, but I have a devotion to these guys here and a testament to the hard work that they put in. I need to be present for them, but at the same time, talking to these guys, having FaceTime calls, doing Zooms, it's really important. And retainment will be an important thing. I think there's some guys on the roster right now that we feel like can impact winning and help us as we move forward and build this to a championship level program. And we got to do both right now. So my wife keeps telling me I have 2 jobs, and I'm still trying to make sure that we keep this one job here in Iowa State going, and still at the same time start to build everything up and build our daily habits there at USD.
Let's talk about this vision that you have and this fit that you have for the University of San Diego. What was it about this opportunity at USD, whether it's the university, the city, maybe the vision, that made you say, you know what, this is my job?
No, for sure. I mean, first and foremost, I think the leadership, President Harris and then Kimya Massey, our athletic director, they made it clear that we have a vision for USD to compete at the top of the WCC. And Kimya made that very clear in his first phone call that we had. And I think with the departure of Gonzaga, Washington State, and Oregon State, the timing was right to take that next step for me. We've invested significantly in the program. Obviously the Basketball Performance Center, there's been upgrades to the JCP, and there's been expanded resources for student athletes, and that includes, NIL and rev share opportunities, which is a part of the changing landscape of college basketball today. But not only that, the dedication to player development, nutrition, athletics training, strength and conditioning. Kimya pointed all those things out to me and made it clear that USD was ready to take that next step to compete at a championship level, and they got all the ingredients to build that program. So, coming from Iowa State, where we have had a lot of success, but we don't necessarily have the top of the line resources in comparison to some of the other teams in the Big 12. That really resonated with me, and I'm like, hey, I can go do this, and we can do this as a staff, and then we can do this and put a good group together that can definitely compete at the top.
We're talking with JR Blount, who is the new head basketball coach at the University of San Diego, Iowa State assistant coach. But before that, and this is kind of the lead to my next question, it's kind of a follow-up on what you just said. At Colorado State, you were part of bringing in one of the best recruiting classes they have ever had. You've obviously seen the landscape change with NIL and with everything that's evolved with college athletics. How important is it for successful universities at the basketball level at D1 to have that investment and that full support from the administration? And I know you listed a lot of different reasons why you think San Diego is going to be like that. But for you, at what moment in these conversations did you sit there and be like, you know what, they're going to give me the best opportunity to win? And how important is it to have the resources to be successful at the D1 level?
Yeah, Brandon, I think it's immensely important. You know, it becomes really, really hard to do without the resources, without the investment from the top down. And I think that, you know, you've seen it. The programs that are winning and continuing to win consistently, you know, they have those resources. And I don't want to say it as a fact that that's the only thing that matters, because I still believe in high character student athletes. I still believe in pouring in and investing on a development level as a coach and as a mentor. But you need that. You need the resources. You need the investment. And, you know, I could see it right away. I could hear it right away with Kenya, and we talked multiple times. And then being able to meet face to face with Kenya and President Harris and hearing their vision of, hey, this is not only a stepping stone, but this is an opportunity to raise the bar at USD and get it back to what it was in 2008 when, you know, Coach Greer got him to the NCAA tournament, and, you know, they're beating the top teams in the league. And, you know, that's what we want to do. I think, to me, it was obvious after sitting down that USD had all the ingredients to build a championship program, and from the leadership to the resources, the location, and a mission, you know, that aligns with me. I'm a product of a Catholic education, and at Dominican and Loyola, and at a Division II school that was Catholic at St. Leo. So I've been aligned with this. This was the perfect fit for me and my family to come here.
Let's talk about obviously the battles locally here. I mean, you're moving into an area that you obviously know with your experience at Colorado State, with San Diego State being here in town, but also UCSD is now in town, and UCSD is moving to the West Coast Conference eventually during your tenure as the head coach at USD. So 3 D1 schools all in one town, but in a hotbed in Southern California. You know, what's your pitch to recruits that to make USD the choice over obviously a lot of good and competitive teams that have made the NCAA tournament and even the national championship in the last half decade?
No, for sure. I mean, I've unfortunately been in Viejas Arena and only been successful one time, and Coach does a great job over there, Coach Dutcher, and you know, and that's the goal. You know, you want to get there and you want to be on that level, but you know, I think it takes time. You know, I think it takes time and it takes commitment. And for us, it's about finding Toreros that really want to be here, that want to play a tough, disciplined style of basketball. You know, I do think we will be different than the other two. You know, we're going to play an aggressive, disruptive style, kind of similar to what San Diego State does, but to another level. And then offensively, we want to create advantages and play fun. And everyone says up tempo, and you got to be able to do that. But we want to turn our defense into offense. So, you know, our identity will start on defense. It'll be toughness. It'll be disruption. It'll be competing every possession. But it also will be, man, a program that's about development, about love, about humility, about excellence. And, you know, I think we'll separate ourselves based on the young man that we bring in, and you'll see the product on the floor.
We're talking with JR Blount, who is the new head coach at the University of San Diego for men's basketball. He's getting prepared for a game against Tennessee State as assistant coach at Iowa State. But as we talk about this USD program, and we talked about the resources, investment, and support, you know, without letting you give out any secrets of what you plan on doing here at USD, but you know what, you've been part of building winning cultures. What does USD basketball, you've kind of answered this, but to go into a little bit more detail, what does USD basketball being a destination look like under head coach JR Blount?
Yeah, I think you hit on it right away. That's the first and foremost thing. We're in the most beautiful city in the world, and you know, I think that is an attractive destination for a lot of recruits, and I think we'll be able to track that based on that alone. And then I think it's the aspect of development and love that we're going to pour into them. You know, I want to, as a head coach, you know, as assistant, it's a little bit different. Like, you're kind of selling a vision of, hey, this is what we're going to do, and this is what my boss says. And I think now it becomes a little bit easier for me, as I can tell a guy right away, like, hey, I'm going to pour into you. I'm going to invest into you. I'm going to love you. And I know what it takes to make you a pro. You know, I've done it here at Iowa State, and we actually had 3 of them at Colorado State in that recruiting class that you talked about. So, you know, you want to bring guys into the most beautiful campus that there is, with strong academics and deep commitment to faith and service and leadership, but also have them develop on the basketball floor so that they can reach the highest aspirations that they want to get to professionally as well. And, it's all about hard work. We're going to work hard. We're going to play hard. We're going to be the toughest playing team out there. And that's our goal, and that's what we'll continue to do.
We got a lot of San Diego sports fans that listen to our show all the time, listen to the station all the time, obviously with the flagship of the San Diego Padres. But for fans getting to know you, JR, Milwaukee background, loyal to Chicago, the journey through the coaching ranks, what's something about JR Blount, the person, not just the coach, that you want San Diego sports fans to understand?
Yeah, I'm a very consistent person. I pride myself on that. I pride myself on having a routine and following through on a daily basis with things that I do. I like to be, I'll tell our guys we'll be relentlessly consistent, and I need to live that. I'll live that every day. I've been, my journey has been a little bit different than most. I started off at Division III to Division II, and then to a director of operations, to assistant coach, and then now to here. So I feel like I've seen it all, and I appreciate it all. I appreciate it, and that's why humility is a key factor in our program, because there's always more. You can never be satisfied, and there's no task too big or too small. And I think that's something that I want to exemplify and pour into our guys, so that when they leave our program, they'll be better basketball players, but they'll also be better men too. And I think that's really important.
JR, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks again for joining us. We're looking forward to seeing you here in Torero Blue, but got to go take care of business in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. Good luck on Friday against Tennessee State and throughout the tournament. I know a lot of people in San Diego are going to be taking a closer look at the Iowa State Cyclones.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it and can't wait to get there.
JR Blount joining us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline, the brand new head coach of the University of San Diego for men's basketball. I'm excited for USD basketball after that conversation with JR. I mean, I liked everything that he said. Didn't have a press conference, got to win the interview, I guess. But so far, I'm on board with JR. I like a lot of things he's saying. I think USD is pumping a ton of resources into their men's basketball program, and you can hear it in his voice about how excited he is to be here and what the plan for USD basketball is going to be, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounded really, really good. I'm excited for the future of this program. And again, as you mentioned, with the amount of money that they're about to force into this program, it sounds like a great start for this new era of Toreros basketball for sure.
And something that for USD has been, has eluded them for years now. I mean, he mentioned the last time that the University of San Diego made the NCAA tournament. It's 2008.
Mm-hmm.
2008. It's a long time ago. Was that 16 years ago or 18 years ago? That's a ridiculous amount of time. 18 years ago, which means there's no freshmen coming into college next year that were alive the last time USD won an NCAA tournament game. Do you know who they beat?
No.
UConn. They beat UConn.
Oh, there you go.
Then they lost to West Kentucky in the 12-13 matchup in the next round. But this is a tough competition now in town. And I think, high tides raise all ships. And San Diego State going to the national championship really pushed the envelope. I really pushed the conversation for UCSD and USD in town to try to get their hires right and try to get their programs right. So should be good overall for college basketball here in San Diego. Look forward to seeing what they could do. I mean, and the thing is, it's not going to happen overnight. Like, they're going to have to build it out. But I'm curious to see the money in what they are able to invest in a roster, because we've heard a lot of reports from Mark Ziegler about how much money USD thinks they're going to be able to spend or put into their basketball team, anywhere between like $2 to $4 million. Is that going to be enough in the new West Coast Conference? I mean, there's a lot of teams that invest a lot of money in their college basketball teams. I mean, you look at the NCAA tournament right now. I mean, that's one to win the West Coast Conference. Now, Gonzaga's not going to be in there next year, but you look at the top total expenses for men's basketball teams in the fiscal year 2025, Indiana is spending $32 million on their college basketball program. Tennessee spent $23 million on their men's basketball program. Arizona, who got a number 1 seed, spending $22.6 million on their men's basketball program. And to be honest, you go through the data on this, and I saw it on social media. San Diego State had like one of the highest numbers for a mid-major program, and they didn't make the tournament. So when we talked about San Diego State and then the investment in the NIL, they have the NIL money, and they have the investment in their basketball team. It's just they got to reallocate to make sure they're investing in the right spots and have the right people. But, you know, that's just to compete in town. I'm pretty sure it was like something that was reported like $9 million. If you look at the overall list that this account put out on Extra Points. But that's a lot of money spent on college basketball. Yeah, they have San Diego State at $9.1 million spent on their basketball program, whether it be coaches, NIL, just the operating costs. USD wants to pump in $4 million to their team. I mean, this is the kind of money that you got to spend to be a good team in college basketball. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wasn't going to say anything else. I was ready for you. You're about to jump on. I was like, I guess he doesn't want to say anything.
I'm working on getting everything set up over here.
But that's the kind of money you have to invest to be good in college basketball. Like, you have to commit to a value like that to be able to be successful and win in college basketball. And it sounds like USD is going to invest that kind of money. But there's more to it than that, too. I mean, we heard it from Sean Lewis, and I think Sean Lewis is on as the head basketball coach, the head football coach at San Diego State. He talked about, like, they need the resources to spend the money, but it's not just spending the money. You got to get the right guys that fit on this team. And that's what it sounds like JR Blount is trying to find for his basketball team and fit the culture. But I don't think the biggest issue nor problem for USD basketball is going to be getting guys in originally. I think it's going to be what everybody else is dealing with at the mid-major level, and that is investing in players and then those players staying, because we're seeing a lot of teams at USD that are affected by NIL invest money, effort, and talent into young players who then leave in the portal and get more money. We've seen it at San Diego State, and we're going to see it at UCSD. I mean, these are the challenges for mid-major programs in this day and age of college athletics, is trying to not be the farm system of the Power Four schools in college basketball, and not being a farm system for the Power Four schools in college athletics. Because if you're a Power Four school, you don't have to develop freshmen. You could just go pick up some guys in the portal and outspend a lot of different colleges in terms of whatever it may be. But you have to make the investment. And I look at, and we're going to get more into the NCAA tournament as we give you the predictions and kind of like help you fill out your bracket. We've already talked about the East region. We've already talked about the West. We're going to talk about the Midwest and the South in the 1 o'clock hour. When we come up next, come back, we're going to talk about San Diego FC and their big game tonight. But when you look at some of these mid-major programs that are making the NCAA tournament as automatic qualifiers, they're investing a ton of money in their team. I look at High Point University just because I have a connection there. My sister went to High Point, so I've watched them evolve over the years. When she was at High Point, they weren't very good at basketball, and they weren't committed to the basketball team. And then I think halfway through my sister being in college, because she was part of the dance team, so I got to watch their basketball. Their basketball was awful. They got the investment for a brand new arena. They put the investment into the team. They're spending money on NIL. And now all of a sudden, High Point's made the NCAA tournament back-to-back years. So as JR Blount mentioned in this interview, it's about resource. You need the resources and the commitment from the school, but it's also about what you're doing with those resources and how you're bringing in the right people, because if you get the investment from the school, it usually works out for that school in making the NCAA tournament. There's not a lot of mid-major programs that are spending money that aren't making the NCAA tournament. So it's very interesting to see where USD is going to be. I love the hire. It was great that we were able to talk to him a little bit, and as he gets prepared for Tennessee State. But that Iowa State team's good. I mean, they're a really good basketball team. And here's the other thing too. If Iowa State beats Tennessee State and Santa Clara beats Kentucky, which is not crazy because Kentucky's been okay. And we're going to break down that region a little bit. Of course, we're going to break down that region. Hofstra's in it. We got to talk about the Midwest region. I mean, he could be going against Santa Clara, which is the team that he's going to go against coming up in the West Coast Conference anyway. So, love the move by USD. Great to have him on. Great to get to know JR Blount. And we'll see what happens. But college basketball heating up here in San Diego. When we come back, big game tonight for San Diego FC, trying to keep their CONCACAF Champions Cup hopes alive, or should I say trip alive. They got to go down to Toluca and win or draw. We'll talk about that when we come back. Get you some more bracket previews in the 1 o'clock hour. 1 o'clock. Didn't get to our midday sports standoff. So much to get to today. If you could take me down in sports trivia this month, you'd be qualified for a chance to win our grand prize, a 2-night stay at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and a $150 resort credit. March is here, and Fontainebleau, Las Vegas is the place to catch every game. High-energy watch parties with expansive screens, great food and drinks, exclusive room rates, plus the pools and day club are open. Book your stay today at FontainebleauLasVegas.com now. We'll do that again maybe tomorrow. Tonight, not only do we have college basketball on, what time are the games? Oh, I'm sure the games are at the same time as they were yesterday, right?
They're on the sheet.
3:40 and 6:15. Prairie View A&M and Lehigh will tip off at 3:40 on True TV. Miami of Ohio will take on SMU at 6:15. That's why. Okay, I understand. I saw earlier today, SMU people were all in shambles. You want to know why they're in shambles? A Dallas bar in the Dallas area, obviously, was advertising to get people to watch the Miami of Ohio Tennessee basketball game on Friday. They said the next basketball game, whatever. And they posted the Miami of Ohio picture, not knowing that they had to beat SMU to get there, and SMU fans are like in shambles and also boycotting the bar now, which is nice. Good for them.
Children.
Come on, man. This is why you can't have non-sports people social media post for sports bars. Not great. What do you think would happen, Frank, if they did that here in town? If they had like a
nothing good.
You had the Padres in the wild card, and the winner played, the team that had to buy. It's like, hey, come on down to so-and-so bar where we got Brewers and Dodgers. Wait a minute. We haven't even played the series against the Brewers yet. What? You get alienated for sure. So the winner of Miami of Ohio and SMU will take on Tennessee. We'll talk more about the NCAA tournament in a little bit. We're going to preview the Midwest. We're going to preview the South regions coming up. But the NCAA tournament tonight is not the only events going on. We have one in town, although it's involving one of our teams in town, not necessarily in town, and that's San Diego FC and Toluca. That is tonight. San Diego FC is heading down to face Deportivo Toluca FC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, round of 16, second leg of this particular matchup. San Diego FC leads the aggregate 3-2. They only need a win or a draw to advance. The match is at Estadio Nemesio Diaz, which is 8,750 feet in elevation. Massive physical disadvantage for San Diego FC, who didn't do that well against Pumas when they had that game. But at the same time, they had a much bigger lead in the aggregate, and they could
different scenario.
Play a little bit different in terms of strategy. Now, San Diego FC's approach, according to some comments made by Mikey Varas in the media this week, he emphasized aggression over playing safe in this particular matchup. And the philosophy he said was you always have to go for the game. What this means is San Diego FC is not going to park the bus like they did against Pumas. But they had a bigger lead where they could do that. You can't really park the bus in a game like this. You could. It's just very risky. So expect the same 4-3-3 system for San Diego FC. Balanced but proactive approach. Identity-driven, not situational. Smart Soccer says defend and survive. SDFC says attack and dictate. I like the attack and dictate a little bit, Frank, in terms of strategy in this particular matchup. I don't think you can wait back. And plus, have we ever seen San Diego FC really fall back?
No, they don't quit. This is a team that's going to be. They will be on it a lot more than what they were against Pumas. Again, it's a completely different scenario, completely different situation. They are going to be ready, and they are going to look like a team that is hungry to to get ahead in this game.
I look at this game, it's obviously I love the way Mikey Varas coaches and manages this club because it's an aggressive style of soccer that's fun to watch. Now, the major disadvantages for SDFC. Now, they are missing Marcus Varksen and Mono Dua because of the red cards they suffered they got in the last game. So you lost a big goal scorer in Varksen, and you lost a key defensive piece in Dua for a team now the way that's got to play at altitude. It's going to be harder to press. It's going to be harder to recover defensively. It's going to be harder to maintain structure late, and substitutions become a critical chess piece in this particular game. I like the way Mikey Varas has been able to manage this team, but this game's going to come down to a lot of Mikey Varas and a lot of the substitutions, especially early on and late, or early in the second half and late in the second half, Frank.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of that is going to hinge on where San Diego FC finds themselves during the match. If they're playing for a draw and it's still tied, then you're going to see, of course, you're going to see different substitutions than what you would see if they were ahead or if they were really down. They know what they need. They know where they need to go to advance in this tournament. Again, the winner of this will play either LA Galaxy or Mount Pleasant FC, which is a Jamaican club. Most likely will end up playing LA Galaxy because they won 2-0 in the first leg. But surely I do not expect. I expect to see a completely different game from what you saw them play against Pumas.
I think so too. The game they played against Pumas was we have a massive lead in the aggregate. What did they have? Like, were they up like 4 goals?
4-1.
Yeah, they had, they had a massive lead that they could play a little bit more conservative and not necessarily their style of play. But I think with their aggression style of play, it's going to be a little bit different. We'll see how much the altitude definitely, plays a factor in this one. But the prioritization of this week, you saw that in the SDFC game against FC Dallas in the 3-3 draw, because Dreyer, Pellegrino, Tverskov, Morgan, I mean, these were guys that either did not play or had limited time. I mean, the clear message was, we're going to the Champions Cup over this MLS regular season game right now. And that was you saw the priority they have for the Champions Cup based on the roster they threw out there on Saturday against FC Dallas.
Yeah, and you also have the ability to kind of lay off of the MLS season right at this moment. You just started the year. It's very, 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 very young into the year. And you also got a very good start to the year. You've taken almost the maximum amount of points throughout the first 4 games of the season. So you could afford to play a little bit more controlled and a little bit laid back during the season, during the MLS season, in order to prepare for this Champions Cup. Now, again, because the situation they find themselves in could have been completely different had they just rolled over in the first leg. So I'm very excited to see what San Diego FC could do tonight. Betting odds drastically different. Toluca is -310. You got to spend $310 to win $100 if you bet for Toluca. San Diego FC is +800 on the betting odds tonight. That's a massive underdog status for San Diego FC. Winning the first leg, they eliminated Pumas. They have a strong MLS start. They were able to win the first leg with 9 players, 10 for most of the game, and the 9 players. Expansion team, doubted them. Beat LA Galaxy to start the year, doubted them. Beat Pumas, doubted them. Beat Toluca, first leg with 9 men, still doubted them. Proof over perception team, San Diego FC. They continue to get doubted, yet they continue to fight back and look like a really they look really impressive so far in their early stages of their organization. But from the Toluca side of things, they're back-to-back Liga MX champions. They're unbeaten at home since July. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be attack heavy, obviously, with the trailing aggregate. And you know what? They're missing Marcel Ruiz with an ACL injury. Alexis Vega is back and playing full matches. Rotated squad over the weekend, also prioritizing this match over the regular matches. But I would expect some early pressure and a hostile environment coming from Toluca.
Oh, for sure. They're not
they're not going to go down quietly, without a doubt, especially with how San Diego FC played against Pumas. Mexico City is not going to let them try and do that again. You're not going to be able to go down to Mexico City and knock out teams twice, knock out one of their teams twice. So I would definitely expect a hostile crowd. And again, the physical advantage that Toluca clearly showed that they had in the first leg last week, it's rough. So they're really going to roll. They're really going to be on it. They're going to be playing aggressively. They're going to be playing like they have a major tournament on the line right now.
Toluca must attack and push the tempo immediately. For San Diego FC, survive the early wave, stay organized, and try to take advantage of counter chances, as we've seen them do time and time again. But game likely becomes a high-pressure survival test for SDFC at this part in the season, and with moments to steal a goal and maybe flip everything. And as Juan Ruiz in the YouTube chat mentioned, yes, they could still lose 3-2 and force extra time, because 3-2 is a situation in which you're then tied with the aggregate. And one says if we lose 4-3, we do advance, because you would have the 3 goals.
Yeah, the 3 away.
You would
goals,
have the
yes.
3 away goals to the 2 away goals for Toluca. So that game will be on Fox Sports 2. They shouldn't get preempted by TCU Iowa State basketball, which is now funny that we played that clip, because now the assistant coach for Iowa State's the new head coach of USD and was just on our show. So that's kind of funny. When we come back, speaking of college basketball, preview of the Midwest region and the South region. Finish up the show, get you ready to fill out your brackets. Pull those brackets back out. We'll help you fill them out when we come back. If you want proof that motorsports is in the middle of a generational shift, look no further than this weekend. In NASCAR, 45-year-old Denny Hamlin just picked up his 61st career win at Las Vegas after losing the championship last year and dealing with personal tragedy in the offseason. Hamlin fought through a speeding penalty, passed the field again, led 134 laps, and reminded everyone the old guard isn't going anywhere. But in Formula One, the future just arrived. 19-year-old Kimi Antonelli won the Chinese Grand Prix for Mercedes, becoming one of the youngest winners in F1 history. The teenager took the lead on lap 2 and never looked back. And in IndyCar, Kyle Kirkwood made one of the boldest passes of the season to beat 3-time champion Alex Palou and take the championship lead. So here's the big question. Are we seeing the next generation take over motorsports, or are the veterans about to remind everyone that experience still wins races? It was a weekend across motorsports where the two themes stood out: experience refusing to fade and youth taking over the future of racing.
Yep. In NASCAR, a veteran proved he still had it. Formula One, a teenager shocked the grid. And in IndyCar, a championship fight is already heating up, and it's just 3 races into the season.
Let's get you caught up on the biggest motorsports stories of the week. In NASCAR, Denny Hamlin still hunting wins. In the NASCAR Cup Series, Denny Hamlin reminded everyone why he's one of the best to ever do it. 45-year-old driver picked up his 61st career win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, putting him 10th on NASCAR's all-time wins list, alongside legends like Richard Petty, Jeff Gordon, and Dale Earnhardt ahead of him. What makes this win even more remarkable is what Hamlin has gone through recently. He lost the championship in heartbreaking fashion last November at Phoenix Raceway, and shortly after that, his father passed away following a house fire that also critically injured his mother. And in a shoulder injury and the grind of a 20-year career, many drivers would have walked away. Instead, Hamlin fought through a speeding penalty Sunday, passed nearly the entire field again, led 134 laps, and took the win.
Yeah, at 45 years old, he's still proving. The old saying of racing is that old dogs can definitely still hunt, and that is a laundry list of things that he has gone through over the last 5 months, and really only said that he's still racing because he is under contract, and it's not fair to his team owner, Joe Gibbs, to have to find a guy on such short notice. Is really the only reason why he's stayed in the car, especially after losing the championship at Phoenix last year. So, I mean, it was a rough go for him. He's the sentimental favorite last year. He's going to be again this year, and he's picking up right where he left off.
Let's move on to Formula One, where a teenager won it in Shanghai. The future might have arrived sooner than expected in Formula racing. 19-year-old Kimi Antonelli captured his first Formula One victory at the Chinese Grand Prix. Young Mercedes driver had already made headlines by becoming the youngest pole sitter in F1 history earlier in the weekend, but the race itself wasn't easy. Briefly lost the lead to Lewis Hamilton at the start before taking it back on lap 2 and never looking back.
Yeah, Antonelli finished 5.5 seconds ahead of teammate George Russell, who won the sprint race the day before. Hamilton grabbed third, marking his first Grand Prix podium since joining Ferrari. He did win the sprint race in China last year, but counting full races, this is his first podium. Biggest headline, though, Formula One may have found its next superstar, and Kimi Antonelli has been in the Mercedes system ever since he was 14 years old. In his second year, raced last year with Mercedes. He is a very, very talented young kid. And if he's already getting in the equipment that he's in at this age and already getting wins, it is going to be a very, very scary future coming up.
Let's talk about IndyCar. Out in Texas, in Arlington, at the Java House Grand Prix, the inaugural Java House Grand Prix in Arlington. It was Kyle Kirkwood, chasing down 3-time defending champion Alex Palou after the final round of pit stops. Then on lap 55, he made a bold move inside turn 13 to take the lead, a move Palou later called impressive.
Yeah, it's a very, very tight corner, turn 13, and he was able to really commit and stick in there and make that move work. That win also gives Kirkwood the IndyCar Championship lead after 3 races. And even more impressive than that is Andretti Global placed 3 drivers inside the top 4, showing that they might be the team to beat this year after years of dominance from the Penske and Ganassi guys.
What to watch next? Across the motorsports world, momentum is starting to build early in the season, and NASCAR Hamlin's win signals that the veteran could still be a championship threat late in his career. Formula One heads deeper into its early season stretch, where the big question is whether Antonelli's breakout win is a one-off or the beginning of a new era. And an IndyCar will resume racing in a couple of weeks at Barber Motorsports Park, where the championship battle could get even tighter. But for you, Frank, what are you looking out for coming up this next weekend in racing?
NASCAR is going to be, I'm not sure. I cannot remember where they are going next week. I believe it's Homestead, but I'm not 100%. Formula One also had some big news this week that because of the conflict in Iran, they're going to be canceling the Saudi Arabian and the Bahrain Grand Prix. So that's going to leave an unexpected month off for these guys. I would expect in Formula One a lot of technical advances. Teams have had a couple of races. They've seen each other. They know how.
Broadcast live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. We got a ton of sports tonight, except for the Padres. It's the only day the Padres aren't playing this week. Off day for the Padres in spring training. They'll be back tomorrow in action against the White Sox. Padres schedule coming up. If we look at it, only a handful of games left of spring training. They got a game against a split squad White Sox team tomorrow. They have a split squad against the Dodgers and Rockies on Friday. They have a game against Milwaukee on Saturday before the spring breakout game Saturday night. They got a game against Arizona. They got a game against Seattle. They're done next Monday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games left of spring training. And we are just over a week from being at Baja Ricks and being at opening day. I mean, at this point in time, a week and a day from now, they'll be playing baseball at Petco Park against the Tigers. Should be a fun time. That's the only team not in action today. San Diego FC will be in action tonight as they take on Toluca. We have 2 more games in the first 4, in which you will have SMU taking on Miami of Ohio at 6:15. SMU's favored by 6.5 on True TV tonight. Winner will play Tennessee in the Midwest bracket. And then in the South bracket, Prairie View A&M, the 16 versus the Lehigh Mountain Hawks, also a 16. Lehigh's favored by 3.5. That game will also be on True TV tonight. This afternoon, 3:40. Winner of that will play Florida in the South region, which is the next bracket we're going to break down. South region preview for the NCAA tournament. The favorite to win the South, none more than the number 1 seed, the Florida Gators. Although I think Houston's got a really good chance at knocking off Florida. Florida's got an eye test of 4 in the country in the tournament, resume of 4 in the tournament, seedless 4, final rank 3rd, according to Joe Lunardi's breakdown. Florida's strength, elite front court. They got an elite front court, rebounding dominance. Their weakness, though, 31.3% from 3, outside shooting concerns that you might need late in the game or might need if you fall behind. They're going to advance because of their size and rebounding travels in March. But reasons why Florida could potentially fall is cold shooting night from deep. So they run into a team that can hit some shots and are good shooters. It could stay outside, not have to worry about the rebounding game. That's a recipe for disaster for Florida in this tournament. Now, first round matchups and picks for the first couple of games. You're going to take Florida over whoever wins Prairie View, A&M, and Lehigh. There's no reason to ever take a 16 seed over a 1. I know it's happened twice now, but it's just so rare, and the gap is continuing to widen between Power 4 programs and mid-major programs, especially the ones that are in these conferences that are one-bid leagues. You know, Prairie View's eye test is a 68. The resume is 68. They are the worst team in the NCAA tournament. Lehigh, eye test 67, resume tied for 67th. They're the second worst team in the NCAA tournament. Pick Florida. Massive size mismatch. Neither 16 can rebound or defend this at this level. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Clemson and Iowa, I think it's going to be a great game. Clemson, according to Joe Lunardi's got a eye test and a resume test of a 30. Iowa got a 28 on the eye test, 42 in the resume. Bennett Sturtz, 20.2 points per game and 5.1 assists. Best player on the floor for Iowa. Clemson does have a slower tempo, and the slower tempo plays into the Iowa shot making. I would expect Iowa to win this game, but this is one of those coin flip games. It could go either way. You're better off picking off a coin in some of these 8-9 matchups. Vanderbilt, McNeese. Vanderbilt has had a great year in the SEC. They got a 13 eye test, 11 resume, rank in the field, according to Joe Lunardi, compared to McNeese, 48 and 46. The pick in this one's Vanderbilt. This is not one of those 12-5 matchups that you want to take to 12. Tanner and Miles, the guards for Vanderbilt, are going to feast against the weak perimeter defense of McNeese. McNeese struggles from 3. That's not a great recipe for success if you are a mid-major program going against a Power 4 school. I'll take Vanderbilt in the first round against McNeese. Nebraska and Troy. Nebraska's got the eye test and the resume. They got a balanced offense plus their defense. Troy, we've seen here at San Diego State, they are way too inconsistent offensively. It could give Nebraska a scare, but I think the Cornhuskers probably get the job done against Troy. North Carolina, VCU. I think North Carolina should be the pick, but this is another game that you circle that might be an upset because the VCU Rams have depth and their offense is dangerous, and North Carolina is out. With Caleb Wilson is out. His injury definitely lowers the season ceiling for North Carolina. I like VCU. If you are looking for an upset pick, VCU over North Carolina is not a bad one, even though I think the consensus pick for most people is, in fact, the Tar Heels in North Carolina. Illinois and Penn, I don't think there's really any reason to take Penn. Penn snuck into the tournament. They upset Yale in the Ivy League final. I mean, Yale was winning the Ivy League for the entire season, and they fell apart in overtime against Penn. So Penn gets to sneak into the NCAA tournament. They're going against an Illinois team that has been really good all season in the Big Ten. Illinois averages 84.5 points per game on the offensive side. They have 5 players averaging double figures. Illinois is just going to be too much to handle for Penn. I'll take the Illini in that first round matchup. St. Mary's, Texas A&M. Like, a lot of people are picking St. Mary's in this game because they have elite free throw shooting and they can control the tempo against Texas A&M's buckyball chaos. But I know A&M hasn't looked that great. The Power 4 schools against the mid majors as upsets. I've seen the St. Mary's team play. I thought Santa Clara was better than St. Mary's this year. I like A&M in this game a little bit more than I like St. Mary's in this game. The pick for a lot of people is pick St. Mary's, but I could see this one going either way. I actually like the Aggies probably a little bit more than I like St. Mary's in this contest. Houston and Idaho. I think Houston's actually the best team in this bracket. I think a lot of people are picking Florida, but I like Houston to make it out of this region. They're my Final Four pick in that group. They're tough. They've played a tough resume. They've played a tough schedule. They got a great resume. They passed the eye test. They're number 2 in the country in defense nationally. I mean, Idaho's not going to hold up at all. I'm not going to spend too much time on that particular contest, but I got Houston advancing, obviously, in the first round. Second round matchups, Florida and Iowa. I like Florida in this one over Iowa. Front court is a lot better. It's going to overwhelm Iowa's lack of size. If Iowa can shoot, maybe they can hang with Florida, but I'll take Florida in this one. Vanderbilt, Nebraska. I like Vanderbilt. Their guard plays better. Guard play wins in March Madness. Nebraska does have a rebounding weakness. So I like Vanderbilt advancing out of that particular matchup. Illinois, North Carolina. Too many scoring options for Illinois versus UNC being without Caleb Wilson. So I'll take Illinois in this one also. And then Houston and St. Mary's. I think Houston's going to be able to match that slow tempo that St. Mary's does. Plus they got elite defense. Elite defense wins in the NCAA tournament. Guard play wins in the NCAA tournament. I think you're starting to see a theme here with some of the teams that you should be picking in the NCAA tournament because historically they've done a really good job. So I like Houston advancing again in the Sweet 16. Now, this is where I still like the advantage for Houston because if Houston makes the Sweet 16, they're playing in their own backyard. They get to play in Houston. Florida and Vanderbilt, I think Florida wins the revenge game. I think the size advantage flips the previous SEC matchup. I like Florida. I like Houston over Illinois. I know Illinois is getting some picks for their offense over the defense, but I like Houston's defense. They've played a tougher schedule than Illinois, and they're playing in their own backyard. I get that shot makers decide a lot of March games for the tournament, but I like Houston over Illinois. And then when it comes to the Elite Eight, it's Florida, it's Houston. I know Florida might be better inside, and they have that rebounding capability, but I like Houston's defense and the fact that Houston is playing at home, basically. They're playing in Houston if they make it that far. If Houston makes the Sweet 16, they're making the Final Four because they're going to be playing at home. It's going to be a huge advantage. I think it's going to be a huge advantage. Now, you can go through the strength and weaknesses of these teams. Florida, their identity is size and rebounding. They can't shoot from beyond the arc. Houston's got the defense on their side. They're very inconsistent offensively. Illinois' got elite offense, but their defense lapses. That's why I like Houston over Illinois a lot. Vanderbilt's got good guard play. That advances in the NCAA tournament. Their fatal flaw, though, is they lack size. Nebraska's got balance, but they got rebounding issues. UNC is very star-powered, but they're injured, which means they got depth and rebounding problems. St. Mary's definitely controls the tempo, but low shot volume. They limit the possessions. Iowa's got a star guard, but they got no interior presence. So I think your safest pick in this region is Florida because of the number 1 seed. My pick is Houston. I think your best upset in this bracket is VC over UNC. I think the dark horse of this bracket is Vanderbilt. And, of course, the toss-up game is the 8-9 game between Clemson and Iowa. But I think Houston is going to advance to the Final Four out of the South region. When we come back, we're going to get to the Midwest region of this particular NCAA tournament. We'll let you know what we think. I'll give you the Final Four picks to kind of wrap this thing up. But NCAA tournament starts tomorrow, bright and early, 9 in the morning. Ohio State and TCU. We got more first 4 games going on tonight. We got San Diego FC tonight. A lot of sports to talk about. A lot of sports to finish the show with on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. A big response after a tough loss. The goals went 1-2 this week, but the big story might be the play of young defenseman Tristan Luneau. Leno extended his point streak to 7 straight games, scoring the game-winning goal in a 2-1 victory over the Colorado Eagles, one of the top teams in the Pacific Division. Goaltender Thomas Susek also stepped up in a big that game, stopping 28 of 29 shots to help secure the victory. Earlier in the week, the Gulls struggled offensively in a 4-1 loss to San Jose and then fell 6-3 to Colorado, but Captain Ryan Carpenter and team scoring leader Sasha Pastojev continued to produce. So here's the question moving forward. Are the Gulls starting to build momentum late in the season? Because if their young stars keep producing like this, San Diego could make things interesting down the stretch. San Diego Gulls had a mixed stretch of games this week, going 1-2 across matchups with the San Jose Barracuda and the Colorado Eagles. And the week started with a 4-1 loss to San Jose at TXCU Arena.
Yeah, the Barracuda scored twice early before defenseman Tristan Leno cut the lead in half of the slapshot goal. The tally extended Leno's hot streak to 5 straight games with a point. San Diego's penalty kill continued to shine, staying perfect for the 4th consecutive game, but the offense just could not generate enough to be able to mount the comeback before coming home to face the Colorado Eagles.
Now, back at home at Pechanga Arena, the Gulls fell 6-3 to Colorado despite a strong start. Captain Ryan Carpenter opened the scoring on the power play, while Judd Caulfield scored his first career AHL power play goal to briefly restore the lead. However, Colorado pulled away in the third period with 4 goals. Forward Sasha Pastojev finished the night with a goal and an assist and now leads the team with 42 points this season. But the Gulls responded the following night. They went and beat Colorado 2-1 against the Eagles, earning a split of the series against one of the Pacific Division's top teams. And when we've looked at the standings for the AHL, Frank, this is big wins because this is a big swing for the Gulls as they try to make the postseason.
Yeah, we've talked about it over the course of the last couple of updates as to how tight everything is in the division, in the playoff race. And for the San Diego Gulls to be able to at least salvage one of the games last week, very, very big. And we've talked about, again, over the last couple of updates, how they've played in so many close games, winning and losing. This is definitely a young, battle-tested team that's still trying to learn how to win.
Yeah. Goaltender Thomas Suchanek delivered a stand-up performance, 28 saves, while Nikita Nesterenko opened the scoring with his 4th goal of the season in this win over Colorado. Once again, Tristan Lowe played a key role, scoring the game-winning goal in the third period, extending his point streak to 7 games with 11 points during that span. One of the biggest positives, I think, for the Gulls right now is the play of Tristan Leno. Young defenseman is not only producing offensively, but also leading all Gulls defensemen in points. And when a blue liner can control the puck, contribute goals, and drive the transition game, it changes the entire dynamic of a team's offense, Frank.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like adding another forward out there, a forward that plays back for you. So for Tristan Leno to really come on the way he has, again, scoring points in his last 7 games, that is absolutely huge for a team that is looking to make a playoff run and is towards the back end of the safe zone.
Now, another encouraging sign, the penalty kill, which has been perfect over the past several games. In the AHL, special teams can often decide tight games, and San Diego is starting to show improvement in that area. The bigger challenge, though, for the Gulls moving forward is consistency. They've proven they can compete with strong teams like Colorado, but turning those flashes into sustained momentum will be the key if they want to climb the Pacific Division standings. They are in a safe spot right now for a playoff, but they are not too far off from hosting playoff games. This is something that should be in their center line to go out there and attack and get. And not only that, you don't just want to make the playoffs, Frank. You want to try to advance in the playoffs, and the consistency with this team is going to be key.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be close to see how this team is going to play. But for the Gulls, they're showing a lot of positive trends to where if things maybe don't go the way they want to or the way they hope or expect it to this year, years down the line, with Anaheim being as good as they are and being able to keep some of these young players and also possibly adding some in trades or in free agency during the offseason or next year, that'll be a huge key for this team. It may not be able to win this year, but next year and years on, they're looking very, very good.
And now the question becomes, are the San Diego Gulls starting to find their rhythm late in the season? Are these strong performances just isolated flashes against tough competition? And with players like Leno and Pastujov producing and the goaltending stepping up, San Diego may still have an opportunity to make things interesting down the stretch. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. What a Wednesday. Can't believe the show's already over. Talking NCAA tournament. I cannot wait for tomorrow. I know you're working on stuff, but we got to play it.
It's birthday Friday, too.
Birthday Friday.
We actually used this to pump us up for the last couple of break videos that we did on Monday.
We had to get locked in.
Yeah, we needed a
lock
hit.
it in. Needed to lock it in. Lock it in. Nice dance. I love the NCAA tournament. It is so much fun. I am going to be like a pig in mud tomorrow. We're either going to have the happy TCU postgame show or the sad TCU postgame show.
Sad frog noises.
Yeah, sad frog. Hopefully not sad frog noises. Here's the thing. Here's the deal with the first. Getting the first game sucks because the first game goes two ways. One, you win it, it's great. You can just enjoy the first round, enjoy all the games. You lose the first game, it's like, why am I even watching this anymore? Game one, already done. Plus, here's the other thing too. It's like for brackets, it's great to win the first game. Because then you could really set yourself up. But the fact that it's one of my teams now, and I got to get that one right, I might as well just pick Ohio State in both of those games. Emotional hedge bet. All right, I'm either going to have a good bracket or my team's going to win. That's where I'm at with this. But if I do that, then TCU's going to make the Sweet 16 for no reason.
Didn't you yell at me for picking against my team when I knew that Penn State was going to lose to Oregon, and I still picked Oregon? Did you not yell at me for that?
No, that's because you did it for no faith. You had no faith in Penn State. Mine is strictly for an emotional hedge bet. In which way I'm winning either way. In this particular case, that was for just you were also like drastically behind at that point in time already in the fantasy football, or sorry, in the college football picks.
Yeah, wasn't a good year.
Wasn't a good start to the year, and then Frank had to pick games that he didn't actually believe in just to try to catch up. That's a worst part to be in. Anyway. 833-288-973. 833-288-973. Frank had a Mets level of faith, says Juan Ruiz in the chat. You know what?
That's about it.
Do you blame the guy who roots for the Mets that he doesn't believe in any of his teams pulling it off? I mean, you had to watch Team Italy lose in the semifinals, and then you get now he has to root for Team USA as an American citizen, and then they lose. You know what? Maybe it's Frank's fault.
I was rooting for Team Venezuela purely for the memes.
No, you don't get credit for that.
Purely for the memes. Oh, I'm not asking for credit for the win.
You don't get credit for that.
I'm not asking for credit for the wins, but I got the memes that I wanted.
The motherland lost, and then your homeland lost in back-to-back games to the same team. If Frank roots for your team, it's bad news, apparently.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, boy. All right, let's talk about the final region that we're going to get to today, and that is the Midwest region. We're helping you fill out your bracket, all right? We're helping you fill out your bracket. And Clay, I saw Clay in the South Bay on the chat on YouTube saying he's not going to fill out a bracket. You know what, Clay? That makes you a windsock. Fill out a bracket. Even if there's a lot of question marks, just fill it out. Just fill it out. It's for fun anyway. All right, let's talk about the Midwest region. Now, this is a region that is defined by elite defense at the top and high variance offenses in the middle. And the clash between Michigan and Iowa State looms large, but there are real upset threats mixed in the bracket that could bust brackets early. I'm talking about Akron. I'm talking about Santa Clara. I'm talking about St. Louis. Let's talk about some of the first round matchups and some of the picks. Now, Michigan versus versus Howard, because Howard won yesterday. They're going to be playing that game in Buffalo, New York. Michigan's got the eye test resume. Eye test number 2, resume number 1. Michigan's been great all year. They're not going to lose a first round game. I'm just going to waste my time. But they got a dominant front court. They have 24 wins by 10 plus, and they have pure physical mismatch over a team like Howard. If you're San Diego State fans, you better hope that they beat Howard by more than 50 points or whatever it was they beat you by. That'd be kind of embarrassing. Now, the concern is for Michigan, turnovers and loss of LJ Kaysen. So that is a little bit of concern, but not enough for Michigan in the first round. Georgia, St. Louis, those coin flip games of the 8-9, again, being played in Buffalo. The game will be on TNT later on this week. Georgia, offensive efficiency is top 20. Defensive efficiency is like 80. St. Louis is the top 3 defense, and they got balanced scoring. I like St. Louis in this game. A lot of the experts still take Georgia, but I think St. Louis is good. I don't care if they're mid-major or not. I know Georgia's athletic and they're good in the transition scoring, but St. Louis has that half-court execution and the efficiency that we have talked about. Plus, top 3 defense. Defense does what in March? Defense travels in March. Georgia might advance because they have better athletes and they can take the advantage in transition, but I like St. Louis in this coin flip game. Texas Tech, Akron. Texas Tech is not the same team they were when they had JT Toppin. They have been playing very poor basketball the last couple of weeks of the season. This game's going to be in Omaha, Nebraska. Akron is 7th in the country in points per game at 88.3 points per game. They're top 10 in field goal percentage. Texas Tech's eye test is about 19 out of all the teams in the NCAA tournament. This is a dangerous game because Akron can score with the best of them. They are elite offensively, and Texas Tech is missing JT Toppin. You got to go with the guard play, though. Guard play wins in March. Defense wins in March. Christian Anderson in the guard play for Texas Tech, plus the shot making, gives Texas Tech the reason to advance. But if you're still looking for upsets, this would be one that I would look at a little bit more just because of the JT Toppin effect. They have not been nearly the same team without JT Toppin. Now, Alabama Hofstra. This could be a big upset. Hofstra could take advantage of Alabama losing out on one of their best players because he was caught with 2.1 pounds of weed.
Ride by a million, boys.
That game's going to be in Omaha on TBS. Omaha. Alabama, first in the country in points per game, 92.1 points per game. Fourth best pace in the country. Hofstra, very limited depth. They got two main scorers. Alabama should have more offensive firepower to beat Hofstra. The concern, though, is the defense and the reliance on the threes. Oh, and by the way, their best player's not playing. So, take that. At first, I thought Alabama would definitely win this game based on the metrics, but the fact that their best player's out, I think Hofstra's going to give Alabama a run for their money. I will say that. Tennessee versus the winner of SMU and Miami. So the winner of SMU and Miami in Dayton, Ohio, are going to fly out to Pittsburgh. They're going to play this game on Friday. It's going to be on TNT. Tennessee's number one offensive rebounding team, which leads to second chance points. SMU is averaging 84.2 points per game. Miami of Ohio is a top 5 scoring offense. I still think Tennessee advances out of this game, regardless if it's SMU or Miami of Ohio. They got better defense, and their physicality is going to be a problem for both schools. I mean, SMU's limping into the tournament, and Miami hadn't played anybody all year. They're a fun story. They won 31 games. Only 28 of them are against teams at the D1 level. They went undefeated in the regular season, and in the first game of the MAC tournament, they lose to UMass, which is embarrassing. That's a quad 4L in the tournament, in the MAC tournament. I like SMU over Miami. I like Tennessee over SMU. If Miami of Ohio wins and beats SMU, I still like Tennessee over Miami of Ohio. I don't think they're going to be able to win more than 2 games in a row. Virginia, Wright State. I like the Cavaliers in this game. Games in Pittsburgh, True TV. Virginia, 68.4 points per game allowed, which is top 50. Wright State is averaging 80.7 points per game. Something's got to give, but I like Virginia's elite defense and their versatility. I'll take Virginia over Wright State. I don't think that's an upset waiting to brew. I like Santa Clara over Kentucky. I like Santa Clara over Kentucky for a couple of reasons. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, which I think that I am, Santa Clara is playing Kentucky. No, they're playing in St. Louis. Okay. It was off a little bit. They said it was playing in Sacramento, which I was like, I don't think they're playing in Sacramento. This game's in St. Louis, so obviously advantage is going to be Kentucky with that one. But I like Santa Clara in this game because of their spacing and their shooting. And I've watched Santa Clara play. Santa Clara's got a G League kid on their team. Anybody know that? Santa Clara's got a player on their team that went to the G League out of high school, didn't work out, goes to Santa Clara. He's listed as a junior in terms of eligibility. Their team's pretty legit. I just think they have a Gonzaga problem because Santa Clara hung with the best of them. I like Santa Clara in this game. I know they lost to New Mexico early in the season, but yeah, Kentucky's been okay. I mean, their eye test is around in the middle of this NCAA tournament. Santa Clara's got a top 25 offense, heavy 3-point shooters. I mean, they live and die by the 3, but they can make a lot of 3-pointers. I like the Broncos in this game. I really do. I think their spacing and shooting is going to overtake the Otega Owe takeover potential that Kentucky might have. I like Santa Clara in this one. Iowa State, Tennessee State. I like Iowa State. They're a top 5 defense, plus 20 points off of turnovers this season. Tennessee State has chaos defense that they play, but I'll take Iowa State's elite defense that overwhelms Tennessee State. Give me Iowa State. Moving on. Michigan and St. Louis. I got Michigan in this. I don't think St. Louis has seen the size of Michigan. I know Georgia hasn't. I'll take Michigan in that game. Alabama, Texas Tech. I like Texas Tech in this game over Alabama if they are able to make it through Hofstra. Shot making versus injuries is going to be the key in this particular matchup. Alabama's offense, 92 points per game in the games, but they don't have their best player anymore. And so now it's kind of a more even matchup between Texas Tech and Alabama. Both teams are missing their best guy. Tennessee, Virginia. Tennessee's rebounding versus Virginia's defense. I like Tennessee in this game. I think the SEC has been better than the ACC this year. I don't think they've been the best, but I think they're the second best conference in college basketball. I'll take Rick Barnes and company and Tennessee Volunteers. Iowa State, Kentucky. Kentucky's been very inconsistent. Again, I like Santa Clara over Kentucky, but even if it's Santa Clara, I like Iowa State over Santa Clara. I like Iowa State going to the Sweet 16. So I got Michigan, Texas Tech, I got Tennessee, and I got Iowa State. I like Michigan over Texas Tech, and I like Iowa State over Tennessee. The Iowa State-Tennessee game is going to be a defensive war in the Sweet 16. And Tennessee's got turnover issues. Iowa State likes to bring pressure, too, on the defensive side of things, so I like Iowa State over Tennessee. In the Elite Eight, Iowa State, Michigan. Michigan's got the number one resume. Iowa State's got an elite eye test, plus the defense is better. Michigan's still dealing without LJ Kaysen, who's got that, which leads to ball handling issues. Iowa State forces turnovers. They control tempo. They got one of the best defenses in the country. I like Iowa State to the Final Four coming out of the Midwest region. So you look at the team tiers for the bracket strategy when you fill out your bracket. Michigan and Iowa State are title contenders. Alabama and Tennessee are probably very, very much in a spot for a second weekend lock. If Alabama can survive, if they can survive Hofstra, they should be at a good spot. And the Texas Tech situation is interesting just because of JT Toppin not being there. So, but I like one of those two teams to make it to the second weekend. Your upset watch teams, Akron, maybe against Texas Tech. I really like Santa Clara. I really like St. Louis. I know those are not really upsets, but again, when you look at the brackets and you look overall about how you fill out your bracket, you want upsets a little early, but you want favorites late. You got to get the national championship and the winner right and the Final Four right, and then work your way back out. That's the best way to pick these games. And remember, last year, only 7 upsets in the first round. And I think things are trending towards not as many upsets in the first round as you usually see. We all know who Frank's picking in that game between Alabama and Hofstra. But your best value pick, Iowa State to the Final Four. Most overrated seed is probably Kentucky in this region. Most dangerous double-digit seed is Akron on paper. But Hofstra, Alabama not having their best player makes Hofstra a little dangerous too. And your boom or bust team is Alabama. They could literally beat anybody in this bracket and can also lose to Hofstra in the first round. That's just where you're at. Got anything to say about Hofstra?
Go Pride, go.
Go Pride. We got NCAA tournament games tomorrow. When we start off the show, we'll have Padres baseball to preview later on tomorrow. Thursday, Friday, into the birthday weekend. It's going to be a fun time at the Braden Surprenant Show. Gwynn and Chris from Peoria when we come back.